I'm beginning the session now, and welcome to the Leadership Academy June 2017 session. And we will begin. So, same ground rules as always. I'd love to hear any updates from the group. Any updates? Actually, we have some visitors too, so I'd love to hear about the updates. So, Amanda, what you doing here? I love seeing returning leaders here. What you doing here?
Popped in unannounced today. My apologies.
No, never apologize.
There are multiple people in this room that I care deeply about that are going through things. So I just wanted to be here to support them today and the things that they're going through. That's what we do in this Leadership Academy, and with your mentor relationships, we care about each other and we grow to love each other. So things that you go through in your life, we come to support you. So I wanted to come and support Trey today because I felt like he could benefit from me being here, and Gabrielle as well. So I felt there was a need for me to get up and leave and just pop in unannounced. So again, surprise. But this is what we do.
We do that, and there's never ever a reason to apologize because you're always welcome here. And you'll learn when you join the Returning Leadership Academy that it just even reaches a whole new level of support and love and trust and opening up to each other. And if you think this is good, it's amazing. We do a lot of sharing and a lot of caring and a lot of lifting up of people. And so I love seeing you here. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And any updates, Amanda? What's going on new in your world? Really quick, what's new and exciting you want to share with the group?
Was recently named vice president of my management company.
And big things have happened since Amanda joined the Leadership Academy.
I'm on an 18-month plan to buy out my management company and become the sole president and owner of that company by January of 2019. And I was actually approached this morning by an individual who is an international speaker. He's spoken on 6 different continents, and I want to discuss it with you offline at some point later down the road. He's actually approached me about signing a book deal with his publisher on a millennial communication study that I did on my own last year. So I'm meeting him in 2 weeks to talk about a potential book deal.
Wow. Awesome. Nice.
Good thing.
Yeah. Just remember, she's a returning leader, okay? She has 3 years of Leadership Academy. Yeah. You don't have to worry, but never compare.
Had a great meeting with my mentor yesterday, Sonia. Yes.
Awesome.
Always good meetings with Sonia. And then I did have a meeting about 10 days ago, I think, with Erica.
Oh, good.
And she is in a much better place.
Awesome.
I don't know if you've heard from her, but she's doing much better.
I have been out of the country, and I haven't really heard from a lot of people. But sometimes even when we're doing great, we do have setbacks, even when things are going great, and so we need to keep our support system in place, and so that's great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, she had a couple of changes on board.
Yeah, good.
So
got to get the right people on the bus.
Yes, that
yeah.
helped a lot.
Good. Anything new with you and Chaplain and anything
Not
else?
particularly. I took a vacation a couple of weeks ago.
Ooh.
I told Sonia yesterday, summer tends to be my downtime.
That's
So
great.
there's not much happening right now, which is very nice.
Good. Where'd you go on vacation?
We went to Cancun.
Aw,
Yeah.
sweet.
Fun. Yeah, that's how we like to get.
That's how we roll.
It's a good excuse to turn everything off. So.
Yeah, good. Very good.
Well, on a good note,
Yeah.
Start with it first. One of the major goals that I had this year was my relationship with my brother.
Yeah.
And it's awesome right now. And
That makes
to share
me so
some good
happy.
news,
That makes me so happy.
he is his passion is children and kids and coaching. And right now he is coaching a 15 and under All-Star League out of Havana. They just went down to Central Florida and they won the state championship. So now it is the first time ever that Havana will be represented in the World Series.
Oh my gosh. And you get to be there cheering them
Yes.
on. That is so
I'm
awesome.
actually out, raising money
Yeah.
with him, so it's
Oh,
that is good.
awesome. Really cool.
On another note, 5:30 Monday morning, I was headed to work and I got a phone call from Todd. And my sister that lives in Arkansas had went missing since 6 o'clock that previous Sunday afternoon. Her and a girlfriend of hers were out riding ATVs in the woods, and they just disappeared. And her husband and family went out and tried to find her. Couldn't find her till midnight. Finally reported to the sheriff's office the next morning. Don't know why. They were missing all day Monday. They finally found her girlfriend Tuesday morning around 10. Didn't find Terry until later that afternoon. She was floating down a creek. She's fine.
Oh my gosh.
She was riding ATVs. They were going to try to cross the creek, and they got stuck. And the water, with all that rain they've had, the water was running so fast, she got caught up in it and got swept away. And so they finally found her, got her back. She's been in the hospital, dehydrated, just covered in bug bites, but at least she's okay.
Thank God. Oh, that must have been so
Yeah,
scary.
that was a tough couple of days.
Thank God. Wow.
On a positive note, his brother helped him through all of this.
Wow.
Yeah.
And his brother was with him. So
God.
for me to know that he actually had his brother there for this
Yeah.
meant a lot to me. And I'm very proud of you for that.
And it means a lot to me because our very first session, before the Leadership Academy started, you know,
talk about it.
well, before the Leadership
Before that.
Academy, way before the Leadership Academy started, that was something that we discussed was critical to resolve. And I say this to a lot of people, when you have a relationship with somebody that is hanging over your head and you want it to be better, and it's not getting better, and you're just kind of stuck, and you're not really doing anything about it to make it better, and sometimes you have to apologize and do things that are really uncomfortable to get out of that stuck state. But boy, when you do, and then you just don't look back. You just stop thinking about whatever it was that caused that years of horrible, you know, you just move forward, and then it's just great, and sometimes it's even better than it ever was before.
Well, it's finally to the point I don't even think about it anymore.
And that's what I'm talking about. And so many people, when they're in that stuck state, they don't think it's even possible. But I've helped so many people, including other Leadership Academy participants, get out of that. Yep. Okay.
She didn't want to say anything, but I'll raise my hand.
Yeah. And sometimes it just requires patience and confronting things that are really horrible inside and, you know, and outside, and then just dealing with it. But boy, when you do. So
Much better.
good.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. Oh, thank God. Thank God your sister's okay too. Oh my gosh. Phew. Yeah.
At least she doesn't bend down.
Yeah.
Bend down.
All right.
Let's see. So, what's been going on with me? It feels like it's been so long.
I know it
I
has.
don't
It's been.
remember.
We our last meeting was early last month, and this meeting is late this month. So it is like it's been like 6 weeks.
So let's see. Oh, something cool to share with the group if they haven't seen or they didn't know Leadership Academy. I got to see Gabrielle during our hiatus at what's called the Family Cafe. And
Oh
it's a
yeah.
conference that's done every year where they highlight children with special needs, and it's a conference just about all different kinds of assistance they can receive. And so we were there, had her booth, and then while I was flipping through the agenda booklet, I see Gabrielle, and she's at the pool helping the children that some of them with severe special needs, like in wheelchairs, helping them learn to scuba dive. And I was like, ladies, can you guys cover this? I got an appointment upstairs at the pool. I gotta go see Miss Gabrielle. And that was really, really, really cool.
That was such a special surprise to have you message me and then come visit. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to actually hang around and see how. So you got to see why I do what I do. And what I do is I help people with disabilities experience joy that they never thought was possible.
Oh my God.
And so we had kids lined up
Well, what's funny is
from
I
like
meet
an hour
Gabrielle there.
beforehand.
Yeah, I meet Gabrielle there, and I was like in my official gear.
Right.
So they thought that I was. They're like, "Are you Gabrielle?"
No.
And I was like, "No, can't even attempt that. I'm actually here to see." And they're like, "Okay, we're waiting." And they were just as precious as could be,
Yeah.
and that was really, really special. So that was really cool. And then she says, "Oh yeah, now I'm off to the islands." I was like, "Okay, Gabrielle."
This was my day. Get up at 4:00 in the morning on the 17th. Drive. Thankfully, I got a really nice volunteer to haul me and my gear from Tallahassee at 4:00 in the morning to Orlando. 10,000 people at this event. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge, huge, biggest event for people with disabilities and their families.
Yeah.
And we had a line of people waiting, and the plan was to end at noon because I needed to be on a flight at 3:30, international flight. But noon came and there were still like 6 people left. And I wasn't going to disappoint people. They were having so much fun, and so I was like, "Ooh, I'm supposed to be wrapping up now." And they're like, "Are you quitting?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not. We just can't take any more people." The plan was to take my volunteers to lunch, so I said, "I'm just going to skip lunch, and we're gonna make sure everybody has this experience." And they were so appreciative, and it was awesome. And I mean, it's just as rewarding for me as it is for them, and it's awesome. And so, so here I am, wet hair, still in a bathing suit, no time to do anything but jump in the car and bolt to the airport. On the way to the airport, one of my guys, a combat wounded veteran, I get a message from his wife saying, he's left his crutches in the Tallahassee airport. Can you help? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like getting ready to hop on a plane, and and so of course I'm in problem solving mode, and so I call the Tallahassee airport. I get no help. I call American Airlines. I got the worst customer service ever. They transfer me to cargo. They say, why are you calling us? We don't deal with the public. So I take to Facebook. I get nothing. So then I tweet. Okay, thank you. Now I have a contact. then I take to Twitter, and it worked. I tweeted in the nicest way possible. I tweeted American Airlines, and I said, "Combat wounded veteran needs his crutches," and they messaged me and said, "We're on it," and they got them shipped, and so I hopped on a plane, soaking wet, changed my clothes, got to Grand Cayman, flight delays, chaos, got there, long story short, midnight, so 4 a.m. to midnight was my travel, and then got up the next day, and there was this crazy storm, so there were more flight delays, but it was awesome. And then I worked all week with people with disabilities, with a group called Dive Pirates, and I was, even though my divers were there, the combat wounded veteran, they didn't really need me. So I was paired with a veteran with paraplegia, and it was great. It was really, really rewarding. It was such a good experience. So last week it was just an all volunteer experience, and it was nice. So, but Marcia, it was so good to see you there. Yeah. Anything else new to report?
Let's see. So, okay, so I do have a couple things to report. I'm 3/4 done with my class, with my nurse's certification class. So I'm getting there.
All right.
Yes. And, okay, so I am happy to report I am structuring my business. Yay.
All right. That's awesome.
I'm excited. So, lots of exciting things.
Good.
It's going to be a consulting business, and I thought I would have an unveiling coming up soon that I would share with you all.
Mm-hmm.
So for right now, that's all I'll say.
Yay.
Stay tuned.
And stay tuned. Yeah.
Good deal.
Well,
Other than the news we just found out right before the class, I'm so sorry.
My Maddie, my Labradoodle passed away, but she had a good life, very good life. And before she passed away, Jules, who's my friend who's taking care of her, gave her her own kitty. So
Aw.
Maddie's always wanted a kitty. I'm allergic to cats, but she just wanted a kitty to lick and sniff. I called it kitty crap. If there was a kitty around. I got to go to the Rotary International Conference in Atlanta, and I worked the booth for the Rotary Youth Camp.
Yay!
And talked to a lot of people from all over the world about Rotary Youth Camp, which is a free overnight summer camp for children with multiple physical difficulties and challenges that they can't go to any other camp. Each one of our kids has a counselor. Some of them have 2 or 3. We have a nurse that's 24/7. Gabrielle comes out and works with them in the pool. For some of them, they've just never been in the water like that. You know, even though that would be the best therapy of all. So it's respite for the parents, and it's just a joyful time for the kids. So I was up in Atlanta in the and helping to do some fundraiser and searching for donors and things like that. So we could get international grants and partner with clubs in other parts of the world to set up a camp there. Because these kids they have nothing. And I'm about finished with my class, the Healthcare Risk Manager. It's a graduate certification class, and I turn in my case study and my comments tonight. I'm just doing my final proofing. And I signed up to go to the International Conference Rotary in Atlanta for next year. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take some time off and take the railroad, the Canadian Rocky Tour, and end up in Vancouver, where I have some friends who I haven't seen for years. So I'm going to take care of myself and do that. And let's see that. Oh yes, I was reappointed for this Rotary district as the community service chair. They've been pleased with my little email blast that I've been sending out and my conference calls with various, with the clubs, kind of helping them work through some of their community service issues and developing partnerships. So.
Wonderful.
So life is good and I'm grateful.
Good.
Okay.
Well, so the bad part, I sprained my back.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's why David's not here today, by the way. He's
Is that
severe back
I
problems.
hope I didn't rub off on. We went to lunch
Uh-oh.
a couple days ago, and we
Uh-oh.
had a
He's
conversation.
on major pain medication right now, unable to work or drive or anything.
Okay, but anyway, so I dealt with that in like a month, and also I had some family issues, so I kind of worked that out with the back strain and all that. So it kind of brings you down a little bit too. But you can't really do nothing. You can sit and take them medications and all that. So once I kind of got my back straightened out, I tell you what, I kind of call it a miracle. So I went to the chiropractor, Miss Dr. Gabrielle recommended me to, and so come to find out, because when I walk sometimes, I come home, I walk all day, I be so tired. So I'm going to not this chiropractor now, but the one previously. Dude wasn't doing nothing. Going in, crack your back, sing your eye, how you feel? I guess I feel that. So, but really, I wasn't feeling bad. So I went to the new chiropractor, and it didn't take that long at all. He said, your hip is uneven, and it's common to people, your one hip kind of slides down and make one leg longer. I said, good God Almighty.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it is correctable. You can correct it.
Oh, wow.
And so, man, I was like, my face lit up like a child. So I've been working on that. I've been going to the chiropractor. Also, I can't see joining them with back to the gym. And I've been going there a couple of times a month, so that's been really beneficial. And what else I said? And also, I've been doing a lot of meditating at the house. Put on the lights, put some candles on,
Good.
light music, and just trying to release those bad negative thoughts, that type of stuff like that. So I've really been working on myself, so I'm proud of that fact. But back is getting a little better. I'm not 100%, but it's getting there. Chiropractic is going well, so I'm really excited about that. after all these years, I finally figure out what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just blew me away. So I'm very excited about that. So that's been going on in my life right now.
It's awesome. And just an FYI, I've never needed chiropractic help myself. I referred them to somebody that I have friends who go to that swear by it. Who were you going to?
Dr. Pragle?
Pragle. Yeah,
Pragle,
Kevin Pragle. Kevin Pragle. Yeah, Pragle Chiropractic.
He's awesome. He don't crack you back. He uses vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he put you in the bed, vibrate your hip, whatever the target area is, and then the bed kind of drops a little bit. But what happened is it lines your back. You know, click, and you rub it, click, and you think about it, vibrate something, it'll move. You ain't got to crack it and follow it. So I think it's a wonderful method. I love it. And he addresses the whole issue. He said, well, we do some insole shoes. I've got to get those. And he adjusted my neck up here. Wow.
That's great. Yeah, and I have other friends and coaching clients who've gone and they're like, oh my gosh, my whole life is like they're like singing it's so okay. He must be doing a good job. So good.
Got my vote.
All right. Especially when they go to other people and they're like, well, I've been going for years and I haven't really, I get cracked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never said, well, Barry, one hip was long enough.
Yeah.
You never said anything.
Right.
Get on the table and, do your thing and how you feel. I guess I'm feeling I'm good to go now, so I get that. It's going to take a process. It's not like it's a
Yeah.
thing, so it's a process. But I feel better. I balance a little better now. So I'm
Nice.
feeling awesome.
Good deal. All right. Oh, yeah. Vacation, girl. Where did you go?
Seattle.
Oh.
And I'm from Seattle. I was born and raised there, but I haven't been home in 12 years. And it was a major shock because it's like a miniature New York City. It is just so metropolitan, and all the Fortune 5s are there. So Microsoft is there, Boeing is there, and it's just go, hustle. But the nice part about it was I got to see my family. So my sister's there, my aunt's there, and her husband.
Barry, just leave the plate. Just leave it.
They just loved on me. So I woke up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I went back to bed. I got something to eat. I repeated steps 1 and 2 over and over.
Yay!
But we had a really good time. Really good vacation. And came back to Tallahassee to rain.
Oddly. Normally, Seattle has the rain. Weather patterns. No, weather patterns are very odd right now. This is really odd. No, this is not normal. This is not normal. No. Something odd is happening. But it's not just here, it's everywhere. I mean, weather everywhere.
Yeah.
Even in the Caribbean where I was, it was just bizarre weather. So, super windy. Anyway. So, but what did you learn from the experience, really?
That it was okay to take time for me. I didn't go with my mother, and I usually go to Seattle with my mom because it's such a far distance and everything, and I usually have to worry about her transportation. Does she have enough to do? Is she busy and scheduling that? But it was all me. And I was like, yes. And it felt good.
Good.
No guilt, no nothing.
Now, can you incorporate some of the things you did there here sometimes? Maybe you have a little staycation. Maybe good. Good.
Yes,
Good.
Definitely.
Excellent.
And I talked to my mentor and my mentee, and we were talking about my hobbies. So they gave me a lot of good brainstorming ideas and everything. So we're working on some hobbies while I'm here. Like I said, had 2 great sessions with Trey and Tracy. And I'm applying for another job. So I'm doing my hat for Deputy Director of Training at Department of Juvenile Justice.
Oh, wow.
Waiting to hear about that, which is huge.
Very good.
Yeah. So.
And your health?
Health is pretty good. I've got a doctor's appointment at the end of July. To find out how my kidneys are doing. So we'll see. The verdict's still out, but I feel pretty good.
And you're taking better care of yourself with your physical activity and everything, right?
Okay.
All right.
Tell them about that cheese burrito. Tell them about that cheese burrito.
Real good.
All right. Your mentor needs to really put it
Oh, they are. Trust me, they are.
All right.
Yeah,
Good.
whooping up on me.
Remember transplant. This is big. This is life and death. This is huge. So, okay.
a new auntie.
Woohoo! Congratulations.
First grandbaby, nephew, and the whole
Oh,
thing.
it's your first time being an auntie?
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So my sister and her husband have been home, so they keep texting pictures.
Do they live here?
Yeah, they live across the
Oh,
street from us.
nice.
And I'm focused on me now
Mhm.
with my health and my nutrition. So I'm seeing a nutritionist,
Mm.
doing really hard workouts lately, but I still can't get that confidence of when someone gives me a compliment of I did a good job at work. I still have to give everyone else credit. It's
Just
just,
a compliment.
Yeah.
it's just my job. I just
Just say thank you. Just say thank you.
can't do that.
Just say thank you.
I need to, but
With
I can't.
anyone who gets a compliment, say thank you. Feel free to give other people credit, but start with thank you. Seriously. Anytime you get a compliment, I used to be the worst at taking compliments, and I'll tell you what, that's insecurity. If you can't take a compliment, it's because you're insecure. If somebody compliments you, regardless of what it is, start with thank you. Just say thank you. Bite your tongue, say thank you. Then if you want to give credit to other people, say thank you. You know, say thank you. My team really did a great job. My team really, took charge of this, and they really deserve the credit. But always start with thank you. Can't go wrong with that. Because what happens when you get a compliment and you say anything but thank you, you make the other person feel bad, and they don't want to give a compliment anymore. Okay, just say thank you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the polite thing to do.
It is.
And I was told the same thing. Very simple compliment. I'm like, okay, all right. So yeah, you feel better too.
Mm-hmm. Makes the other person feel better too. So.
I forgot to report one thing.
Yeah.
Or two,
Mhm.
actually. And Raquel isn't here, but
Yeah.
I've been meeting with Raquel, and it's been a wonderful experience.
She's awesome. Where is
She's
she?
totally awesome. I don't know where she is.
And she has some big news too.
I cannot say.
I know, me either.
Really?
Darn it, where the heck is she?
I don't know.
She's supposed to be here.
You can't beat me up. You're not going to get it out of me. So yeah, so it's been great, and it's been a wonderful experience. It really has. So it's been really good. And some other news
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. I know that part of I had this whole list on homework assignments that I think you gave us last time for some of us to, or all of us to work
Yes.
on some LinkedIn stuff.
Yes.
I'm happy to report that I went from 200 and some to
Ooh.
400 and some.
Woohoo! Your goal is 500.
I know, 501.
Good
I'm trying
deal.
to get there. I have 75 more to go.
Excellent. Good job.
I'm 3 years ahead of you, and she just gave me that goal our last session.
Here's the thing. I actually gave her the goal years ago, and she didn't listen to me.
I'm like, oh, wait.
You're right.
I LinkedIn with you? And hi, such and such. Let me make sure I'm on LinkedIn with you.
But anyone who actually listens to me realizes that it really does help. It really does.
Yeah.
So, okay, good deal. All right, I just texted Raquel, like, where are you?
Okay, good.
Because she's so good about letting me know if a parent,
Yeah.
if something gets stuck or, okay. So we'll see what's going on.
I did briefly meet Amber Tynan.
Yes.
Say her name right?
Yes,
Yeah, I briefly met her yesterday.
she's a superstar. Where'd you meet her?
We were giving them some money for the Hang Tough Foundation.
Awesome.
Oh,
Okay.
that is such
So
a
you met her
neat
outside of her role.
Yes.
But yeah, she is awesome.
Yeah, we
She's
talked briefly about you.
great. Yeah, I love her. Who doesn't love her, right?
Mhm.
And she was a year one participant, so
Oh, is that what
she
she
was
was?
before Amanda. Yeah, she was a year one, and she was the first ever award winner. So leader of the year. So yeah.
That's a wonderful organization.
It is. It's a really great foundation. So
But before you get into session,
Mhm.
I'm going to excuse myself and let you guys enjoy your class and talk freely amongst yourselves. But I just wanted to pop in and offer my support to my dear friends
Aw.
today.
you are always welcome here, and I'm so grateful for you and your continued participation and being plugged in and being here. I think is really special. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I will like to say before I leave, because Gabrielle.
Did you get some lunch?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I always like to talk in here, so it's free. It's a safe space in
Yeah.
But listening to your updates today, it was very encouraging to hear from all of you and the things that you're going through. And I don't want you to feel like you're the first person ever to go through the stuff you're going through. You're not. This is like Deborah said, my 3rd year sitting at this table, talking to different faces about the same thing, and there's themes that come up over and over and over again. And so I don't want anyone at this table to ever feel like they can't reach out and have some support. Because even if someone across this table from you is not going through the same exact thing at the same exact time as you, doesn't mean they cannot support you. I mean, if you look at Trey and I, we're 2 totally different people doing 2 totally different things in different places in our lives. But I talked to him this morning, and just a couple texts back and forth was nothing more than that. But it was enough for me to stop what I'm doing to come here and support him. And I don't know anybody at this table that wouldn't do that for you.
Yeah.
So if you're not relying heavily on your mentor relationships,
Mhm.
I beg of you to start doing that now, because you're missing a huge component of
Yes.
this whole year-long journey.
Thank you for saying that.
If you don't, 'cause I mean, it's the biggest thing, and taking advantage of that and not taking advantage of that is the difference of where you're going to be in December and where you're not going to be in December, and then moving forward where you're going to be and where you're not going to be. So, if you're struggling with your mentor pairings, reach out to your mentor, your mentee, or reach out to Gabrielle, or reach out to me if you want an extra mentor or an extra mentee. I mean, there's
I would
a reason. Do it. I mean, I'm in the Facebook group, so you can find me there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've never told anybody no. Nobody at this table would tell you no, and nobody here would say they wouldn't support you if you needed support. So, whatever you're going through, just know that there's more than one person at this table that would stop what they're doing and come support you
Mhm.
if they knew you were having a rough time.
Yeah.
And we all love you. Big group hug.
Yeah. Thanks,
So,
Amanda.
thank you for letting me hop in and say hello.
Good to see you. And I'm so happy for you and all the.
Yeah, yeah.
There's another picture in there with colder water too, by the way. All right, so by the end of the session, you will be able to discuss the 15 invaluable laws of growth and develop an action plan. So this is based largely on a book by John Maxwell, today's topic, and it's one I really, really like. So the message of the book is that to discover your own purpose and potential, you need to grow in the following areas. And, a lot of these things are things we've been discussing throughout the Leadership Academy. But self-awareness is one. You don't have the ability to change until you're aware of what you need to change, right? So self-awareness is one. Character is a big one. Even when we already have great character, we need to continue to work on growing our character skills. You're never as sharp as you need to be. You always need to sharpen the toolbox. I have plenty of pens if anyone needs any extras, so. Okay.
Never mind.
Okay. Relationships. Many of you have seen through my coaching sessions and my discussions that relationships matter not just in the workplace, but in your home life. Relationships are huge. Relationships really are the core of everything. And if you can't get along well with people, then you're not going to be successful regardless of what you do. Spirituality is the last one. No matter what your faith is, you need to nurture your faith. So let's go do an overview of the laws, and then we'll get into more detail of each of these laws. The first one is the law of intentionality. Growth doesn't just happen on its own. You have to work for it. The law of awareness, you must know yourself to grow yourself. The law of the mirror, and this is really good for people who are insecure in any way. You must see value in yourself to add value to yourself. The law of reflection, learning to pause, allows growth to catch up with you. And so few people take time to press the pause button in their lives. The law of consistency, motivation gets you going, discipline keeps you growing. Yeah, gotta have discipline. So a lot of us are motivated to get started on something, but it's the keeping going that you gotta have discipline for. The law of environment, growth thrives in conducive environments. The law of design, to maximize growth, you have to develop strategies. The law of pain. Everybody experiences pain, but good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. The law of the ladder, character growth, determines the height of your personal growth. The law of the rubber band, growth stops when you lose the tension between where you are and where you could be. The law of trade-offs, and I'll tell you later that I like to call this the law of trade-ups. You have to give up to grow up. The law of curiosity, growth is stimulated by asking why. The law of modeling. It's hard to improve when you have no one else but yourself to follow. The law of expansion. Growth always increases your capacity. And the law of contribution. Growing yourself enables you to grow others. So you have to focus on yourself first. So let's start with the law of intentionality. Growth doesn't just happen on its own. You have to be intentional about getting to the next level. A big part of being intentional is why you're here in the Leadership Academy. You understand that you need to work on things in your life in order to grow to the next level. Now, unfortunately, there are certain things in our lives that cause traps for us, that prevent us from growing. And we need to be aware when we get stuck in these traps. One is the assumption trap. And so assuming that you are where you need to be, or assuming that if you're going to do something, the end result is going to be something. The knowledge gap. So think about what skills, what abilities you have now, and what is holding you back from where you need to be. The timing gap, waiting for the right time. The right time. A lot of people say someday I'll, right? Someday I'll. There's no island named someday, right? I hear people all the time, one day, someday I'm going to do this. And they never do. That's why I always have action plans that have dates on them. People have a lot of dreams that don't have actual deadlines on them. The mistake gap. This is when people are afraid to move forward because they've made a mistake and they feel stuck, and they think if they do something that they might make another mistake, so why bother moving at all? So this often happens when we experience loss and we're afraid to do anything else in case we fail again. The perfection gap. This is where we just think that we have to be perfect in order to do anything. And guess what? We're never, ever going to achieve perfection. The inspiration gap, just waiting for inspiration. Just waiting. And inspiration never comes. The comparison gap. And this is something that I've mentioned a bunch of times, but anytime you compare yourself to somebody else, one of two things can happen. You're either going to feel inferior, or worse, you're going to feel superior. Never, ever compare yourself to somebody else. Don't compare your journey. Don't compare where you are in your life. Don't compare your ailments. Don't compare, anything. It's never healthy to compare yourself to other people. And finally, the expectation gap. A lot of people just have these expectations about where they should be, and they kind of get stuck in those expectations instead of just planning what should be. What do I need to do to get there? So here are some questions to ask yourself. Where do you want to go in life? What's the greatest you can imagine going? How committed are you to achieving what is possible? How much time, effort, and discipline will it take? And here's the big one, what's holding you back? Think about those things. A lot of times, what's holding people back is fear. Fear of failure, of the unknown, of what others think about them, sometimes fear of success. What do you think about some of these questions? Anyone?
Well, I think for me, I mean, like a lot of folks, it's just the fear factor, and getting over that fear of doing something, and I don't know if it's don't want to fail, or like you say, maybe fear of it having success, but I think fear plays a big role in a lot of people's, that trying to thrive to do better.
Yeah.
Good. And for me, a lot of times I'm my worst enemy because a lot of people see things in me, or they say, "Go for it, you can do it, you have this, this, and this." But I have all these voices in my head that are internalizing and saying, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm my worst enemy.
Most people are their own worst enemy. Most people are their own worst critic, and you have to think about that. Why do we let our insecurities get the best of us? Most of the time when we talk to ourselves, we're saying negative things to ourselves. Stop it. Every time you judge yourself, you break your heart. Stop it. It's not easy, and that's why I have a lot of people who are my coaching clients say affirmations. You got to change the language that you're saying to yourself. Stop being so mean to yourself. Stop it. Every time you do that, you're just reinforcing all the insecurities that you have. So you got to change the language, and you got to start saying, "You got this." The more you start saying, "You got this," you've handled a lot more challenges than this. I got this. I got this. Then the much greater likelihood that you're going to succeed. But you have to be intentional with everything that you're doing. Yes.
I give myself permission to say, I'm figuring this out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be perfect at this, but this, being a caretaker and all of this is new stuff for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm figuring it out. And I'm listening to people who've gone down that path. And when they tell me I'm doing okay, or people I trust, when they say you have to carve out more time for yourself, or you have to, I just take that as an assignment because I am new at this. And once again, I give myself permission to be figuring it out.
That's good.
That's a hard thing to do because I've always hit the ground running and I had, but this is a new universe. And I'm learning the language and I'm learning the customs.
Good.
Just as if I moved into a new country.
Good. Other thoughts about this, being intentional?
So I've always had somewhere where I wanted to go, but I've reached as far as I wanted to go, as far as I ever planned.
So where do you want to go next?
Well, I don't have it.
You don't have anywhere you want to go next?
No.
So then think about, and you're talking in terms of your career, right?
Career, and life
So,
in general.
Okay.
I mean, obviously my kids are growing up.
Right. Well, really think about other parts other than your career. If you're happy where you are, that's fine. Just think about what else can you do. Maybe you haven't, if your kids are growing up, maybe it's starting to think about what's bigger than you. You're starting to maybe do more work with nonprofits, for example, do more volunteer work, build a legacy, those kind of things. So typically when people kind of have figured out where they want to be and they've arrived, then they start working on legacy type things. And so I feel like I'm in the legacy phase. I'm where I want to be. I don't really want to go anywhere else, but I'm kind of in the legacy building phase, and I am building my nonprofit, and what I'm doing for a living is what I love, and I don't really want to do anything else. I love what I'm doing. And I don't want to grow the business any more than it is because I'm working as much as I want to, if anything, I want to cut back. And so, I can relate, but at the same time, I think, what else can you do? Legacy's big. And legacy is one of our later topics, leadership gold, and, really thinking about growing others to a whole new level. But I think legacy, even thinking about what can you do that's bigger than you, that's bigger than what you do for a living? What can you do? Maybe think in those terms. So for me, it was founding a nonprofit organization. For you, it might be something completely different. But And it could be something for your kids. It could be something, you know, just really think about what do you want your legacy to be, you know. So, yeah. Yeah. The next one is the law of awareness. And what the law of awareness says is you must know yourself to grow yourself. And here's the thing about awareness. People who track calories and intake of food are always more likely to lose weight. People who track their finances and their budget are always more likely to save money. People who are more aware of themselves and track things like their feelings, their fears, they journal about things, are always more likely to make positive changes. So you have to be aware of what's happening. Your triggers, who pushes your buttons, you know, what negative things you need to work on, what things are holding you back, helps you get to that next level. So you need to know your strengths, your weaknesses, your interests, and your opportunities. You need to know where you are and where you want to be. And where you want to be may be where you are, but maybe it's a better version of where you are. Maybe it's making improvements in where you are. Maybe it's taking where you are to a whole new level, you know. So there are 3 R's: requirement, return, and reward. And when you answer these questions, you have passion, which is the number 1 energizer of people. So requirement, what's required of me? Return, what gives me the greatest return? What do I do well? You really want to focus mainly on your strengths, not on your weaknesses, and put your greatest growth effort toward your strengths. You do want to work a little bit on improving your weaknesses, but put your focus, your attention on your strengths. That's the greatest return. And reward. What's most rewarding to me? What are you passionate about? When you're passionate about things, you feel rewarded. So when you think about those things, that's when you've discovered true passion, and that helps energize yourself and others. Thoughts about
what
these?
Was requirement? What is it going to take to get
Yeah,
there?
requirement is what's required of me. What's it going to take to get there? Oh, you guys fighting over the bathroom?
Go ahead.
No.
I can see. Thoughts about these? Okay.
Just a quick comment when
Yeah.
you said that about weight.
Yes.
So last year I had a goal to lose 10 pounds in the course of a year,
Yes.
and it was very simple. I started tracking calorie intake,
Perfect.
and I actually lost 12 pounds.
See?
It was amazing.
It is
how
amazing.
simple that was.
It is so simple. 2013 was my year when I started tracking, and all I did was track. I did nothing else differently but track, and I lost like 20 pounds as soon as I stopped tracking. And I'll tell you, I didn't feel like I was eating more, but obviously I was. And so the key is tracking, because what happens is we graze, and as soon as we're our own accountability partner, we're like, oh, wait a second, I'm already up to 1,500 calories and it's only lunchtime.
When you're not tracking, you tend to eat those
You
little things.
do.
You're like, it won't hurt me to eat this
Yeah,
little
no
bit.
big deal.
But
I know.
then you start doing that every day.
I know, and it
then
adds
when you're
up.
tracking, you stop doing it.
I know, it's
You go,
true.
"Oh,
Or
wait."
for me, what I was doing was I was seeing, oh, I have a deficit of, vitamin A right now, or I need more protein. For me, I need to get some protein, and so I would. So anyway, yeah, it's amazing, and I lost 20 pounds just from tracking. Did nothing differently. Tracking is amazing. Yeah,
It is.
yeah,
It makes you focus.
yeah, it does. And you don't want to disappoint yourself. So
Yeah, you don't realize that you actually need more fat in your diet or more carbs.
exactly, and that's what I was saying, like focusing on carbs, fat, and protein. And often for me, I wouldn't have enough fat. and you need to have
Right.
fat, because I don't eat meat, and I don't really generally eat processed foods and things, and so I would have like not enough fat. And in one case, for a while, when I was exercising a lot, I was training for a triathlon. What I found was through tracking, I actually had a calorie deficit that was too much, and so my body was storing fat to compensate. And when I realized that I was too low in calories, I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. But anytime you have more than a 1,000 calorie deficit per day, you are starving your body. And so what I did was I increased it was hard at the time because I was training for triathlons. I increased my calorie intake by 500 calories, and that's when like the pounds just started falling off. Increased my calories by 500 per day, and it makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
But then like the pounds fell off. I had got to the sticking point, and then I realized what was happening was I wasn't feeding it enough.
Right. My nutritionist.
Yeah.
I do the fitness pal.
Yeah.
Last time.
Yeah, my fitness pal.
He hacked my to make
Good.
sure that I'm getting
Good.
because I was getting not enough fat.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, you gotta change this. So he told me I could have peanut butter rich. Peanut butter is high in fat and everything in my head, but he says that's
Peanut butter is good. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
and I can't just eat one spoonful, so I got the little containers. That's one serving to go, so I'm not keep eating.
Yeah, I can't stop.
Right. That's my snack for the
I need a whole
afternoon.
jar.
That's my snack for the afternoon. Little thing.
So I thought this might be Raquel, but this is not. This is saying Dr. Miles. This is Ramsey trying to get hold of you. Okay, so this is not Raquel. Hang on. Wrong number. I hope Raquel's okay. Yeah, no. I was like, I tried calling and texting you. I'm like, wait a second. Okay. There's three kinds of people. People who don't know what they'd like to do. People who know what they want to do but don't do it. And then people who know what they want to do and do it. The people who don't know what they want to do, don't know what they'd like to do, are confused. The people who know what they want to do but don't do it are frustrated. And the people who know what they want to do and do it are fulfilled. So, yeah, okay, so I can tell from the body language where some of you fall. And which one do you want to be if you're not there, right? You want to be fulfilled.
I'm stuck between 2 and 3.
Mhm.
For example,
Yeah.
the consulting.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
background. And I did speak to Kevin
Good.
because I had to cancel for
Yes.
last Saturday, but I rescheduled with him.
Oh, good.
But my patience is where I get hung up. I'm
Yeah.
trying to build,
Yeah.
training and all of that, but I just hurry up and wait.
Yeah, so while I was out of the country, I was asked to facilitate something, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not available, but let me refer you to somebody. And so, if anyone's looking for work, just let me know, and I will do my best to. But that's great. You are between 2 and 3, but you're going to get to 3. You have to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to take long, relatively speaking. You've got to build your skills to get there too, and including, having a business, managing a business, marketing, a lot of things that maybe you haven't had to do in the past. So, okay. So be patient with yourself. So to find your passion and your purpose, you want to have a need for personal awareness. So what does it mean to be personally aware? You kind of touched on this already, right? Do you like what you're doing now? Okay, I can. Some of you don't need to answer. I can tell by your body language. Some of you do, and some of you don't. If you don't, what would you like to do? And I know what some of you would like to do. Who don't like what you're doing? Can you do what you'd like to do? Okay, good. Do you know why you want to do what you'd like to do? And the why is a big thing. What's the motivation behind it? Is it something you're passionate about? Do you know what you do so you can do what you want to do? Do you know what to do? Yes, do you know what to do? Yes, got it. Yeah, okay. So you got to get things lined up to get there. And then do you know people who do what you'd like to do? Because that is always helpful.
because of the situation with my brother right now,
Yeah.
I can't do what I want to do.
But this is a blessing,
This
actually.
is a blessing because
Yes.
I am using this time,
Yes.
this additional found time where I can increase my skills, increase my network, become a more centered person myself, because I eventually want to work for a nonprofit and be an executive director for a nonprofit. But, I'm using this time to get all my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Whereas if it weren't for my mother, I might just jump in the deep end and swim, and I'd get to the other side, but it probably would not be elegant, and it would be very stressful, but I'd get there. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually using this time to develop the skills with the leadership, with the classes I'm taking, with the networking, with things like that, so that when the appropriate time opens up, I can step into something and actually feel like I'm not, not elegant in getting to where I want to be. I will have developed better skills, better listening skills, better everything. You all are a part of this process, and I greatly appreciate it. I really do, everyone.
Yeah, you're doing really well. So. All right. So you need to think about with the awareness, becoming conscious of every choice you make. I have a coaching client now who his company referred him to me, and he's a stressed out manager in a company, and he was promoted from within, and we kind of had an epiphany in a session yesterday, where I really think it's what it is that's stressing him out is insecurity. So he's been kind of held up in this world where he was promoted from a technician to a manager. And so he's wanting to kind of do all the work he did before, but not really wanting to be a leader yet, and so he hasn't really gained the full respect of his team. And he's not really handling things well. And I think through that epiphany, he's now gaining conscious awareness of what's happening and the choices he's making, and even the way that he's been reacting to some of the things that his team has been doing. So some of the things that I'm having him do is delegate more and start documenting work processes, which he hasn't been doing, which is something he needs to do as a leader, and enlist his team and let him know that they communicate more with him, and then hold people accountable on his team. He has one team member who has not been doing what he needs to do, and he hasn't really held that person accountable. And you can't be respected as a leader if you're not willing to do that. And it's hard to jump from peer to supervisor and do that, but you've got to do it, Next one is action. So the difference between those who do it and those who don't is those who do it. You gotta take action. Accountability. One really important thing about the mentor pairings is that you have an accountability partner, and on both ends, mentor mentee, you have an accountability partner, and I'm your accountability partner too. So anytime you want to chat about things, and just let me know how things are going. Let me know if you have a struggle. Let me know what's going on in your life. But there can also be a trusted friend or family member who's your accountability partner. You need to be accountable to yourself too, and a lot of that is through tracking and then following up on those action items that you agreed to do is a big part of that. And then attraction is the last part of awareness. Think about, who are you attracting in your life? Are they like-minded? Maybe at some point in your life you weren't attracting the best circle of people. Maybe you're still there in your life, and if so, if you have toxic people in your life, think about how much value they're adding to your life and if you need to keep them there. So get committed. If you have to, pay people for their time and advice. Be consistent. Meet regularly with someone who can help you. Be creative. Learn from people, even if you can't meet them. Be purposeful. Prepare for every interaction. Don't wing it. Be reflective. Reflect on every encounter and discover what you're learning. And be grateful. I love what Tanya's been doing, right? Her gratitude is blowing me away. Always show appreciation for what you're learning, even when it's painful, even when it's difficult. So ask yourself these questions. Will you pay the price to do what you want to do? When can you start doing what you'd like to do? And what will it be like when you get to do what you want to do? And some of you are already doing what you want to do, but I want you to think bigger than that. What's next? What's legacy? You know, what can you do that's even better? What can you do in your current environment to make it like better, even better? All right. The next law is the law of the mirror, and this is Amber Tynan, by the way.
Yes.
And so you must see value in yourself to add value to yourself. So when you look in the mirror, are you happy with what you see?
Yes, I am. I have a cute haircut and I have these darling every time I look in the mirror, I go, you know, you're aging nicely. I really do. I don't know why that's important to me. You're really aging nicely.
Okay, so that's the superficial side.
I'm telling you, I'm grabbing it where I can.
Now let me dig a little deeper, because the value that you see in yourself is usually the value that others see in you. Okay?
People want me on boards. People
Okay.
want me on fundraisers.
Right? And so if you have a bar that's down here and this is all you think of yourself, nobody else is going to raise that bar. So you have to think highly of yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to look in the mirror and like what you see all the way to the core.
Yeah, but cute red glasses don't.
So some ways to do this. Guard yourself from self-talk. We already talked about that. We are our own worst enemies. You've got to stop with the negative things you say to yourself. If you find yourself talking bad to yourself, just stop it. Just tell yourself, this is not doing me any good. You know, change your language. Stop comparing yourself to others is another thing. Just stop it. Move beyond your own self-limiting beliefs. Don't think about what you can't do. Think about what you can do. And if you're thinking what you can't do, change your language. You can always do things that you didn't think were possible. I just spent a week with people who had physical disabilities, who had, quadriplegia, who had paraplegia, who had all kinds of physical challenges. But you know what? They had the best attitudes. I interviewed them because I'm working on an article. And I was just blown away with how capable they are, each one of them, and how positive and how some of them considered what happened to them a blessing. And that in many ways, I have one guy who is a double amputee. He was riding in the back of a pickup truck in California, and there was a heater in the back of the truck, and the heater fell out, and that they were doing transporting this heater, so they stopped on the side of the road to try to secure it, and a car came along and slammed into the back of him, pinning him to the heater to the other car, and instantly basically he lost both of his legs. And he has a wife and he has children, and he is the most positive person you will ever meet. His accident was just 2 years ago. Happiest guy. He was joking, like, call me Mr. Happy Feet. And he was, hey, where's my legs? I mean, he was just so funny. But he said, you know what? This is a blessing, and here's why. Everybody just goes and goes and goes, and we're in our devices, and I used to commute to work, and I just didn't notice things. And now I need to get help to get to work. I'm in a wheelchair and I need to get, transportation. But when I'm in there and I'm looking at the scenery and I'm looking at the billboards and I'm thinking about things and I have so much more time. What happened to me forces me to slow down. It forces me to really think about life and to spend more time with my children and to not be caught up in this crazy busy world that we're in. And everything takes more time, and that time I actually think is a blessing. And I loved his attitude, And so you think you can't do something? Just go spend a week with people who have severe disabilities and watch all the things they can do. And he was moving himself on this boat, by the way, not in his wheelchair. He was using his arms, and he was, moving himself from a bench to the ground to, and just think about how hard life is. It's not that hard. So.
Was there any ones who, had the quadriplegic that had an attitude like, well, why is me did have any those like that?
No, some of them went through those phases. I interviewed a bunch, and some went through the anger and then they came out of it. And I think all of them were on this trip because they'd written essays, and they were to this point of acceptance of this is where I am, this is who I am, this is my life, and it's a different life than I imagined for myself. And you know what? Any one of us could have a life like that in an instant.
Yes. In
an instant. And all of these people were just ordinary people that freak things happened to them. One was a lineman. Who was on a job and was electrocuted, and he lost his arms, and he lives in a place where there's nobody else with disabilities, none, like zero, and this was his first time since his accident he's had a chance to interact with anyone with disabilities. Wow. And he was really feeling isolated, and now all of a sudden he's like, gosh, and he's a lineman. He was a lineman, So, yeah. All right. So stop thinking of what you can't do. Next, add value to others. Anytime you start to feel bad about yourself, add value to others, and it just goes right away. Do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing. Yeah. And finally, use positive affirmations. That will always help increase your value. So those are things that will help you. So remember, what we say about ourselves, we tend to believe. What we believe, we tend to act. And what we act, we tend to become. So can you think of something in your life that you need to do to improve the law of the mirror? Anyone? How about a limiting belief? Does anyone have a self-limiting belief that they want to change? Yes.
A self-limiting belief that I hear from my mother and that I can internalize is that you're too old and nobody's going to want to hire you, da-da-da-da. And that's part of the reason I look in the mirror and say,
good.
Those red glasses, you're aging well, you're just...
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is superficial, but it's also
that's good.
I do have this, my mother's always said, because you're fat, people are laughing at you, you're not pretty, da-da-da. And I have a tendency, if I'm feeling badly about myself, to pull that out, to play that tape. And so I will go put on my red glasses and comb my hair and look in the mirror and I go, nah.
That's great. It's unfortunate that you had your mother in your head all your life, and now she's like there. She's there. And
it is what it is.
I know.
It's an opportunity for my character
to
be polished.
Yes.
Apparently God doesn't feel the need to use the hammer. No, He's pulled out the fine grade sandpaper.
So what you want to do is identify a limiting belief that you want to change. Determine how that belief limits you. Decide how you want to act, feel, or think, and then create a turnaround statement that affirms or gives you the permission to act, feel, or think differently. Okay? So that's how to change a limiting belief into an empowering belief. The next is the law of reflection. Learning to pause allows growth to catch up with you. These are dolphins I took pictures of in the Maldives. We had Maldivian cuisine today. As a matter of fact, the next slide I have is a boat that I lived on in the Maldives. So schedule time. Don't hope you find the time to pause and reflect. It doesn't even require a vacation. Spend time every day. Put it in your calendar. Find a time that's good for you. Maybe it's 6 p.m., maybe it's 6 a.m., whatever time it is, put it in your calendar. That is your sacred time. And schedule that time to reflect, to pause, to meditate, to whatever it is you need to do, to pray, whatever it is you need to do to press that pause button. Sometimes pressing that pause button is going for a walk. I love going for walks or runs or whatever it is, that brings you joy. But you've got to actually put it in your calendar. I can't say that enough. It doesn't require a full-on vacation. But so few people take time to press the pause button, and they're just going and going and going and going. And I shared the story of the guy who lost his legs, and that's what he said. The lesson he got out of his experience was that this was a blessing because now he pauses all the time. He doesn't really have a choice but to pause. And now he appreciates his family more. And he was just kind of going through the motions before, and now, all he has is time. So reflection turns experience into insight. And everyone needs a time and a place to pause. So where's your favorite place to pause?
Front porch at 10 o'clock at night to watch the stars.
Awesome. I love it.
Take the two dogs out, go to the
Yeah.
bathroom before we go to bed, and I'm just sitting out there with the lights off,
Yeah.
just looking at the stars. That's my
Really cool.
7, 8, 10 minutes where
Yeah.
everything,
You like it when firefly season's
Love
up?
it.
Me too.
We had so many out
Me
there about
too.
a month ago, just
Yeah.
everywhere. Like,
I know.
living in the city, you don't see that much, but out
Yeah.
there,
Out where I live, I see it too.
I see 'em too.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Who else?
I kind of do the same thing. I go in the back porch sometimes.
Yeah.
I stay right next to the woods, so I open my back door, some woods right there. So just the quietness and looking at the woods, like you're looking at the stars, and just so peaceful. I mean, it's like, wow, just let go and just relax and interact with nature type stuff like that. So, yeah, that's my time.
It's great. Who else?
Mine varies.
Yeah.
I'll sit out by the pool in the backyard. I do what you do a lot.
mm-hmm.
I come home and it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
Then before I go inside, I'll just stand there and look at the stars.
I love stars too.
I love a clear night sky.
Yeah.
I go out to my vegetable garden
Ooh.
right now, and
Oh, please bring vegetables next time.
I
I almost messaged on Facebook,
tomatoes.
but I could have used some tomatoes.
Oh, I'm sorry. If I still have some next
I
time,
know.
But I like to go out there because I can't be gone far or long. Or whatever. I like to go out there and I pick the ones that are ripe and I look at the ones that aren't and I just say thank you to the growing and say to the bugs stay away. But it's a very centering time. It's just it's just very centering because I am focused only on that at the moment. There's so many things going on. It's hard to not be distracted, but it allows me to just focus on that.
That's neat. Anyone else? If you don't have a happy place, find a happy place, okay? Seriously.
I have one, but it's early in the morning instead of
Yeah,
the evening.
that's
In the
okay.
evening, I'm really, really, really tired.
Yeah.
By the time I finish all my stuff, so I felt like I didn't have time. So my only time is like
Morning is fine.
4:30.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or 5 a.m. That's my quiet time, and that's when I'll go out to the porch or have my tea and exercise, meditate, pray, whatever, read read something, and anything that I want to do.
That's
take
good.
A long shower,
Yeah.
whatever.
Nice. Christina?
The gym.
The gym. I love it. That's good. Keep that as your happy place, and you will be melting away in no time. That's good. Really good.
It relieves stress.
Yeah.
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 It is.
I have a chair in my living room that I go to, but when I'm not in my living room at church, sometimes I go early before service or before a meeting or whatever, and I just sit in the chapel by myself, and it's just serene. It's very peaceful and tranquil.
Very.
Oh, well, also, in addition to going backwards, I like cutting my yard, like getting in
Oh,
the yard.
yeah.
Man, weed need it. I get in the zone, I can think, man. I brush it, and I just love it.
That's
Really
great.
love it. That's another one I like to do. Just get out in that yard and just pull weeds or whatever. Just get out
Really
there.
nice.
Sometimes take your shoes off. So yeah.
So the book you eventually write will be The Zen of the Law.
You know, you can come visit my house. So pausing with intention, going back to the law of intentionality, expands and enriches. When you take time to pause, you use your eyes. Investigation. So pausing is about finding meaning in each experience. Incubation. Like crockpot cooking, incubation allows experiences and thoughts to grow to their full potential. Illumination. The process of placing value on your experiences and performance. So you really want to think about how things come to light sometimes when you have time to pause. And then illustration. This helps expand your experiences into teachable lessons. Sometimes pressing that pause button, especially following a challenge, will enable you to go, you know what, I do see value in the bad that happened, So, yeah, those are good things. So, think about these things for reflection. What is my biggest asset? What is my biggest liability? What's my highest high? My lowest low? What's my most worthwhile emotion? Least worthwhile emotion? Best habit? Worst habit? What's most fulfilling to me? And what's my most prized possession? So good questions are at the heart of reflection. Anyone want to answer any of these? Trey, you're smiling.
Well, I'm looking at the last one, and I've been in Alabama working for the last few weeks, trying to help out Ellen Mill, and I got home, and Peyton, which is my 4-year-old granddaughter, she's taking swimming lessons at our country club, and they told me that you don't want to go because the way what they do to the kids, they just take them and throw them in the pool. And learning how to swim, you first walk out here, everybody's crying, and they'll start talking to them, and they'll tell them stop crying, and you just take them and dunk them under the water. When they come back up, they quit crying.
Yeah.
The third day, no more crying.
Yeah.
So prized possession. I'm thinking about Peyton, and I'm thinking about my 6-year-old grandson as well. Just watching her, how she's progressed over the last 2 weeks, and seeing how she's come and how she enjoys it, it just eats me up.
I don't have children, but Amber has become like a sister to me, and through the Leadership Academy and through coaching, I recommended scuba lessons for her, and because I felt like something was holding her back. Long story short, a child came from the result of scuba class because she and her husband reconciled, and out of that came Finley, named because they had to touch fins with each other. So Finley is this special little girl, and so Finley's first birthday just happened, and I wanted to give her a really special thing, so I bought swim lessons for her. And there's so many children who needlessly drown. It's so sad, especially in the African American community. It's just heartbreaking. And so, to me, like, this is one of the best gifts I've ever given anyone and I've witnessed people training little babies on how to swim. but it's awesome.
Yes, it is.
And they can save their lives, you know,
Right.
throw them in the water, and the next thing you know, they're like, whoop, you know, and you don't have to worry about them.
It was funny watching her because she's had a hard time trying to get her arms to do this.
Yeah.
And her teacher was holding her by her legs, and she wouldn't move. And she comes back, I can't do it when you're holding my legs. And then she took it and just threw her out there.
Yeah.
And here comes Peyton. She jumps up, she takes a breath, and there goes her arms.
Oh,
You know, and it was just like, that's it.
that's cute.
I taught my kids how to swim. Like my son, you know, he can go up under water and then swim under water and come back up. So we went to Walk Up Springs and he's got a high dive, got like 2 or 3 levels. We went high dive. And I held his hands. We jumped down and I looked at him, ready. We swam back to the top. So he's like, and I kind of broke the barrier for him, you know. So me and him being there together. So I taught him how to swim. So this is appreciative, like I said, African American community.
Yeah.
You don't like water for some reason. To see him, you know, get through that and learn, and he goes all the time.
That's great.
Cold for me.
I love training African American scuba divers.
Yeah.
I love it because it's a stereotype that's not true, but unfortunately there are a lot of people who drowning among the Black community is way higher than anyone else, and I just I love programs that help teach kids how to swim. So all right, what else on this list for reflection? Anyone have anything they want to add? We'll take a break after this.
I'm looking at what is my biggest asset.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to contemplate on what's my biggest asset.
Yeah.
So I think it's just talking to people.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think she coined the phrase last time, the problem solver. Right?
Oh yeah, that's a good asset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Can your asset also be your liability?
Sometimes. For example, being a helper, being someone who likes to help people sometimes can be your liability because it's sometimes to the detriment of yourself and sometimes to the other person. You're too much of a helper. What did you have?
Just, you know, go back a few slides back about the perfection side.
Yes.
You know, I'm so at work anyway, attention to details.
Yeah.
And I harp on it all the time.
Yeah.
And while it gets us to areas that we have not been before, we're on record pace this year.
Right.
In 30 years of that meal running, but it also, at times, I feel like I'm going too much about it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Anyone else?
You know what really is most fulfilling for me is doing my Rotary stuff. Whether I am fundraising for Rotary, where I know part of the money is going to go to the Rotary Foundation. I mean, because I'm helping people all over the world that I'll never see. From Polio Plus or from, we do water projects, I'm making a difference in people's lives that will never know me.
Maybe you end up with a full-time position in Rotary somewhere.
Could be, but they're all in Evanston.
No, some are here, you know. There's been quite a bit of turnover in Tallahassee. You just never know when something might open up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. But I love Rotary. I do. I love the fact that individual Rotarians will do. I dumped off a bunch of Beanie Babies that I had collected for my sister of memory, because she had wanted to one day open up a store and 20 years later sell Beanie Babies. Well, she didn't have any money at the time, so I just bought them and put them away. Well, she passed, but what's really good about the Beanie Babies is they're good for the preemies. They can put it on there, and they also use them for the ones where the babies are born and either born dead or they die shortly thereafter. They put together a little memory box. You know, they'll take a picture of the parents holding the baby, and they take old wedding gowns. There's some charities in town where they make little gowns for the babies, little wedding gowns. And included in that are these little Beanie Babies that they can choose, so that they have something. They can say this was, because they're not going to go out and buy a toy. I mean, this is such a sad.
Yeah.
But they can say this was my child's toy. You know, and put it up someplace so it's something loving and kind. And well, doing something like that, or I don't know, I've cleaned toilets at the Boys and Girls Club. That's okay.
Yeah.
Knowing that, making a difference. Somehow I'm making a difference.
Any other thoughts on this, on these questions? Yeah. No, I could see you like in a certain role here locally. That you know where I'm talking about. Yeah. Just saying. Ding, ding, ding. You know. Okay. All right. Well, let's take a break, and we can talk about this when we come back more. I have some ice cream, by the way. I have, and they're cones, all kinds of different cones and stuff, drumsticks and stuff. So I'll pull some of those out. And we'll take 10 minutes or more if we need it, a little bit more if we need it. I have no idea what happened to Raquel. Rochester had messaged and said he might be late or popping in, or because he's moving Friday. And I said, I hope he'll come for at least part of it.
Is that to Atlanta? Is that
Yeah,
right?
Atlanta. Yeah. Who wants ice cream?
Me.
You.
You're on screen for ice cream.
Did you like it? Oh, good. It does have a kick to it. It's got a little bit of chili in it.
Yeah, I told my boss I was coming back to work after my meeting. I think that maybe that's not going to work out too good.
4:30, I'm gonna take it
I can make it like that.
I know.
I'm gonna get to the job and get back at 5 o'clock.
I didn't have time to make it that good, but that was my plan to make it that good. So
Sweet too.
Do you really? Have to be in the mood. Time are you gonna go?
Yeah, I'll be there in a second.
there's some vanilla,
This is a picture of Maddie, my dog, when she was a puppy, and her best friend was a miniature horse. And she and the horse were the same size.
Oh.
And that's for Sophia in my house. They're pretty cool dogs. She was just absolutely cool.
Was she white?
Yeah, well, she looked more like a golden doodle, but she really was a labradoodle. Her mother was a gray poodle, and her father was a kind of a really white cream-colored lab, and he had dark eyelashes and this dark nose, so she always looked like she had done her eye makeup. And I had a set of fake pearls that I would put with her on her hair. And she loved those things. She didn't like it if I had her wear like t-shirts or something. She didn't like any of that stuff. But she really loved her pearls.
That's funny. So, did someone text you to give you the news?
Yeah, that Jules, she'd been staying with my friend Julie, who rescues big dogs, but she's also a good friend of mine. And Maddie had been staying on and off with her since my car accident. And she had a big backyard. She has a golden retriever, and they were all good friends. And she just moved down to Stewart. And after Maddie rallied, she took her down to Stewart with me, and she sent me the text. But, I know she had a good life.
We're going to scoot chairs around. There's too many chairs in there now, so
Okay.
spin it around a little bit.
That's fine.
And then I'm going to scoot all these.
And I also have Mickey, my Japanese chin. He's 14 years old. He's 90 pounds. He has a cataract in his right eye. He's going blind in his left eye, but none of that matters to him because he's just the boss of everything. He just thinks he's the boss of everything. If he can't see, that's fine. He's got his serve. He can find his food bowl, and he can find his water bowl, and he can find his little cup he has. So that's really good.
That's very important.
Yeah. Oh, good. This is short for short people.
Oh, you can make it taller.
No, I like this. It's
Okay.
short.
You can definitely make it taller if you want to.
No, it means my feet
I'm
can touch
worried
the
about
ground.
Raquel. She's so good about communicating, and I don't recall hearing from her.
How do you turn this knob?
It's not like her. I'm worried about Raquel.
Oh, yeah.
Unless I missed something.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
I'll text her.
Okay. Yeah,
to hear that. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'll take that, sweetie. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you want to hear my theory?
Sure.
I think the two of you got here early before everybody else, and you made up with Gabrielle in cahoots. And you guys got
Train may have
No,
It's a conspiracy. I'm convinced.
Nope.
she's just good like that.
She is good like
I
that.
think
Yeah.
it's a sign from God.
Oh, now we got divine intervention going on. Yeah, right.
I think somebody's trying to tell you something.
I'm gonna stick to my theory. They're metric. That's the thing I couldn't remember.
What's out there?
Have you done that since the teenage girl coming? It's supposed to be a nutritional place.
Do you know at the
Teenage,
Atlanta
and tell you how to eat and
aquarium,
portions and how to
you can
measure
have
proteins
sleepovers?
and
I mean, it's really just for kids, but seems to me, I
went.
might be able to get enough kids to do it that I could be a chaperone. Because I just think that's so cool. You get to
But I
sleep
don't
at
know
a place
Right.
where,
give you a
like in
like
part of the
this.
town, where
Yeah,
it's
my
artificial
nutri-
night and
my
sharks
nutritionist,
and everything are
we had
swimming
at
all
my
over the
gym.
house.
It's
Oh, throw a sleeping bag
So we
down?
lost our
Yeah, you bring a
trainer,
sleeping bag
and
and,
he came start substituting. I said,
you know, these things
do
didn't exist
nutrition
when I was
on
a
the
kid.
side,
So
blah, blah, blah.
the fact of the matter is that I gotta figure out a way to make that happen for me as an
And I said,
adult.
how much she charge?
I think you just need to remind them that it didn't exist when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And it's just not
So,
fair.
Well, you know what?
I went to my James.
Maybe I'll do one for
On
moms
Parkway?
and
I used to go there.
grandmothers
I
and
know
you know,
him.
sort of
Yeah, that's where I went. He was my PT.
Our
Ask
type of
whoever
kid.
tells you no, ask them
but
if they
he
got it.
checks on me,
Yeah.
my
Well,
nutrition.
if
Yeah.
they- if
Like
they
yesterday
do
morning,
those things,
I had to,
you do
we were supposed to
Yeah, the
do
thing about
measurements
it
last
is
night, and then just realized that we did it on Saturday, so.
All right.
Saturday.
So we are
At 6:30.
we are back.
Checked on me, I was like, really?
We are back.
No means no.
and we're back and we're still recording.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
that's okay. Just so you know, during the break I keep the recording going. So any discussions that are outside of they're all recorded. I have actually told you that multiple times. But, so, you know, you get into the personal stuff and it's all on recording.
It's all on the internet. It doesn't matter.
All right. So the next one is a law of consistency. In that year when I was training for the triathlon, that's how, man, that's how ripped I was. Oh, well. So when I was disciplined, that's what I looked like. But really, you know, people are often motivated to make positive changes in their lives, but it's discipline. You got to have discipline to keep you growing. And discipline is hard. A lot of people start things and they have great intentions about keeping things up, and then they fail. And that's one reason I hate New Year's resolutions, because, you know, people are like, I'm going to wait till January 1st to make a New Year's, you know, what's the point? Do it now. If there's something you want to change in your life, don't wait. Do it now.
Getting that bikini.
So practice a small discipline daily in a specific area of your life. It is definitely one of the most powerful morale builders. And think of one area right now in your life where you could practice a clear and changing discipline. Right now, I want you to think of something you need to have more discipline in your life with. We're going to go around the room shortly, so have something. Christina's already got one? All right, go.
My health,
Your health.
my nutrition, and losing that weight.
All right, and you're
So-
already working on it. It's
Right.
really health. It's
And
not.
last night, because I met with my nutritionist last night, he said habits. If you have a habit, start it right then and there. Not in the past,
Yeah.
not in the future, not tomorrow, because the features, nothing started right
Yeah,
then
I
and there.
Yeah.
And I started last night that I'm doing it cold turkey, not cold turkey.
What
but
is it that you changed?
just the diet, the eating habits.
Okay. Good. All right.
TV. I spend a lot of time watching TV, and I can be so much more productive just using that time that I spent just vegging out.
Yeah. So what you could do maybe is limit yourself to X number of minutes per day that you're going to let yourself be a vegetable in front of the
And
TV.
apply that to my business plan. And
Exactly.
strategizing
Because what's more important to you? You know? So we go back to the previous law, thinking about where you want to be. Yeah. Okay. Good. Barry.
Well, mine is exercise, is being consistent
Mm-hmm.
and staying on task with stuff. You know, you start doing some stuff and then stuff happens and you let it go and let it go, let it go. And I just need to stay on task and be more disciplined and going and exercising because apparently with my back and everything I need it. But you get home like, I don't feel like doing nothing. And you don't do nothing. So just being more consistent and disciplined is what I'm trying to set out to do.
Great.
I'm going to start getting up at 6 a.m.
Mm.
I am sleeping too late because, quite frankly, I dread the day starting. It's just kind of challenging. So I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. because there are things that I can do for me. There are things that would be good for me that I enjoy doing that I'm not doing now. Because I'm sleeping too late because I dread the start of the day.
That dread is not a good thing.
No.
That concerns me when you say you dread. I do find that anyone who's going through any kind of transition, whether it's unemployment or they don't have structure, they're working for themselves for the first time, whatever, that they need to actually establish a schedule. So like forcing yourself to get up is a good thing. But then right away put something after the getting up thing.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So put something. So are you a morning person? Do you have
I am a
good
morning
brain
person.
power in the morning?
That's when I'm alert.
Okay, good.
It's
So
when I'm running.
I would suggest that you maybe do a 15-minute walk and then right away get into whatever tasks you want to start and put it in your calendar to have some structure and discipline.
Okay.
And you're going to feel so much more energy. You're not going to dread the day starting because you're going to feel like, ooh, it's pretty cool. I'm working on some things I want to work on.
I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Marcia.
Mine would be, I guess, to find time to exercise. It seems like that's the last on my list instead of one of my top ones. So, I mean, I do very little. Like, I'll do the minimum amount. Like, I'll do a couple of sit-ups in the morning, some sit-ups, and okay, I did my exercise for the day. I'm done. Okay, I checked that box. And I'm not doing any cardio or anything like that. I was walking, and it just seems like that's falling through the wayside to some other things. So, and I want it part of my life again. So I just need to do it.
So anytime I hear anyone say, I don't have time to, it just means it's not a priority.
Right.
And when I hear them say, I don't have time for me, it means I'm not a priority. And so you've been putting everybody else before you, and it's time to put you on your priority list. And so you've got to make a commitment. And the downside of being a petite person is people make assumptions that you're fit.
Oh yeah, that I'm like perfectly fit.
Right? But you can be incredibly unhealthy and look fit. And quite frankly, you're at a lot of risk of health issues if you're not exercising. And so you know how much you benefit from it. So you need to be disciplined about putting it on your calendar and scheduling it. And for a lot of people, what I do is I suggest that they get up earlier. Set the clock earlier, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I know you're already a super early morning person, but for a lot of people that works really well. But do something to get it on your calendar.
See, when I go to the gym, it's right after work. So if I don't go right after work, I'm gonna go home and do nothing.
Yeah.
So I have my schedule.
Yeah. But you don't have children, and so
No,
for
no,
her,
no, no.
probably it's, probably right after work, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
So, but I agree, do what's best for you.
Right, everybody has.
Everybody has a different time. Everybody, and for some people, what I say is use your lunch break at work. If people are working through their lunch breaks, and it's foolish for anyone to work through their lunch breaks at work if they work in an office environment. It's one of the most unhealthy things to do, right? So get out of the office, go for a walk. Something as simple as that will help a lot. So yeah, okay. So do it. Report back to us. All right, Trey.
Mine is the same, as Barry, I got a bad back as well, and part of mine was the exercise, and I started it, but it has gone away. I lost 16 of the 20-pound goal that I had originally set, but the exercise part of it, I just kind of let go. I'm still walking, but as far as doing sit-ups and the light work and the aerobic stuff, I pretty much quit.
So whenever you have a back problem, you got to build the core.
Absolutely.
And that core will protect your back. And so you guys know my dad has back problems too. My dad has solved his back problem through swimming. And he goes to a chiropractor too. He doesn't live here. But swimming to him has just, so every day he exercises. I know it sounds crazy. And he's pretty nuts about it. He's pretty addicted to his discipline of swimming. He swims 5 days a week for 3 hours a day.
Wow.
So he is buff. And my dad is. He is. I could never dream of being that buff. Like the pictures of me, pale in comparison. He has a swimmer's chest, and he always was thin. When I was growing up, he was thin and fit, but now he's got like the muscle, because swimming but he doesn't have back problems anymore. The back problems are gone. So building the core is really important. So don't neglect that. So get it back. Talk to your mentor. Get it back, okay, on your addenda. Stop neglecting that because you were doing really good. And what happens? The bad thing about so motivation gets us going, discipline keeps us growing. You're motivated and you're like, oh, I did it, I'm doing good, and I don't really need to do this anymore. And then the next thing you know, you have a back injury, and you're like, okay, all right, Tracy.
I'm struggling. I've gotten pretty disciplined with food. I could do a little better with food, exercise. One thing I wanted to do is start reading more. I've gotten better discipline about that. I could probably get a little bit more sleep, maybe.
Okay.
Outside of that, I'm not coming up with anything.
Okay. I really think about it. I'm sure not everything's perfect in your life.
But I can't think of anything.
Okay. Because right now you're making us all feel like everything's just coming up roses. I mean, I'm just like, okay. So I really want you to, dig deep and really think about what, just because everyone has something. So maybe just right now things feel really good, but dig really deep and start thinking about things. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is one thing that I love is the rule of 5. Okay. This is one of the great rules for thinking about what are your goals. So I want you to think about a big goal in your life, a big goal in your life, whether it's building a business, getting, to losing weight, be specific about what it is, getting to a health goal, whatever it is. I want you to be
a 9-bedroom house.
I want you to be really specific about the most important big goal in your life. Okay? Now, what 5 things will you do every day to achieve your goals? John Maxwell had written like 60 books by the time he was 60-something years old. And they weren't just books. They were best-selling books. And people were like, how is this possible? You didn't even start writing until you were, in your late 30s. How is this possible? And he said, discipline. He said, every day I do 5 things. I call it the rule of 5. And he said, you need to figure out what your rule of 5 are. For me, every day I do 5 things. And he suffered a heart attack in his 50s. He suffered a heart attack. And even in the hospital, he did the 5 things. He did them less, but he still did them because this was his commitment to himself, to have this discipline. So for him, every day he reads, every day he files ideas, every day he asks questions, every day he thinks, and every day he writes. Every day. because he's an author, and that's the 5 things he wants to do. Now think about the big goal you have in your life, and what are the 5 things you commit to doing every day to achieve your goals. I want you to spend 5 minutes thinking about that and writing those down, okay? I know you don't think you have any goals right now.
I can goals.
Okay, good. You're killing me, Tracy. You gotta think.
Spirituality.
Okay, good, perfect. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so that's a really good one. So everyone spend 5 minutes thinking big, and then thinking of the 5 things you're going to commit to doing every day. You're going to commit to doing every day, okay? And write those down.
Supposed to be as it relates to the discipline we just talked
Yeah.
about, or anything?
Your goal. I want you to think of a goal. A goal. It could be a goal related to spirituality. It could be a goal related to building a business. It could be a goal related to your health. It could be a goal related to your career. It could be a goal related to your relationships, to your family, to something that's really big to you, that's important to you. You sure everything's perfect, Tracy? Because Bodie is really stuck to you today.
He loves me. He
I
always
know he loves you, but I mean, he's just like all over you.
I didn't say I don't have any stress. He just hasn't seen me in a couple months. I'm making up for lost time.
Oh.
We both. He's like, and he smells my dogs.
more minutes.
He's stressed. He's using me.
Ready? I know it warms up a lot. So, Tracy? I'll tell you what, I'm going to begin in the middle. Okay, we can skip you and come back. Tracy.
I do that to my staff sometimes. Instead of going in a circle, I start
Yeah.
zigzagging around.
Yeah.
Just shake things up.
I know. Well, I do like to go like in different directions at different
And they
times.
never know what I'm going to do.
I know.
Just throws them
Keeps them
off.
on edge.
So one, I said, and some of these I'm already pretty good at doing every day. That's okay,
Good.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so read, which I've gotten pretty good about reading every day. Make sure I'm being intentional about taking time to reflect and meditate, because I do that a lot, but I'm not necessarily always intentional
Good.
about it. Spend some time having real interactive conversations with my wife and kids, not just those. Did y'all ever see the movie Click with Adam Sandler?
Yes.
That sounds
You remember
familiar.
that period in his life where he fast forwarded through his whole life?
I'm so bad with movies. I don't
love Adam
remember.
Sandler.
Well,
I can't remember.
Yeah.
We had a
He had a
remote.
universal remote control, and so if he was doing something he didn't want to do, he would like hit the fast forward button.
That's
He
hilarious.
could slow things down, stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
And the remote control started learning his behaviors, and so it started doing that for him, and he ended
Oh
up
my
fast forwarding through
gosh.
like this big section, and I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm being
Present. 100%.
present
Yeah.
with my
Good.
wife and kids, which usually pretty good at, but not always. Pray is something I don't do every day, but I think I should.
Yeah.
And then being intentional about being thankful, which I'm a thankful person, but I don't always think about that every day.
You know, gratitude is so powerful that I often prescribe it to my coaching clients. I have people write 3 things every day that they're grateful for, and I have them keep a log. And a lot of times when people are, even when they think things are going well, or they're going through something, or they're not, start writing the things, and you start thinking. In the beginning, it's like, God, I have to come up with 3 new things every day. Are you kidding me? And for me, it's so easy to think about those things, but you actually start writing it out, and there's a lot of scientific research that backs this up, that it will completely change your mindset about truly how fortunate you are, that little things, are just going to be like nothing. And suddenly your whole attitude gets better. Even if it was already good, it gets even better. So it's a powerful thing to do, is to actually start journaling about things you're thankful for.
I think it's keeping me from being depressed.
Yeah,
quite
I
frankly.
know.
Well, it's so easy to get sucked into all the negativity.
It is.
When you're intentionally thankful, it helps bring positive things.
Mhm.
Yeah. So those were 5 things?
That was fun.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right. You bought time for Trey? You ready?
Trey?
Trey, you ready?
Mine is one that I've been working on, and that is the development of my staff.
Okay, good.
I've been using questions for the basic 6 basic questions of the asking supervisor, or supervisor should be asking, and I've got some great information off of it. So what I'm doing is, one, I've committed to the supervisors and superintendents for their development, asking the employees, what do the supervisors need, where are they good at, and what do they need development in, committing to sending them to additional training, having them read books. I've already given them 2. I got 2 people headed to Michigan next 2 weeks for the Lead Institute. I'm going to do that. And then asking the supervisors, superintendents, what do they want? Where do they see themselves? What do they want to learn? Where are they struggling? It's kind of where I'm at. And that's it.
Okay. Next time with your 5, I want you to focus on you. Okay, so this is about your personal goal and what discipline you're going to practice for you every day. Okay?
Okay.
So I want you to come back next month. Don't roll your eyes at me. Don't roll your eyes at me.
It's hard to
I know.
You weren't in here. I figured out why he's next to me. It's because he's stressed.
Is there thunder in the area?
He wants me
Is there thunder in the area? The only reason he'd be
He's
stressed.
just
There must be.
You're fine.
There must
You're
be.
fine. Only reason that he'd be stressed is if there was thunder in the area. He is very focused on you. Yeah. I know he missed you, but he missed everyone else too, and he's glued to you. So he's telling me there's more going on than you're letting on. he's a truth generator. Okay, so Trey, for you, the whole point is to focus on what your discipline for you. I mean, those are great things. It's good to have goals in the workplace, but okay. No, that was really good. Little mentor-mentee support going on there. All right, Marcia.
Let's see. So mine were towards my big goal of launching my business or starting my business, and
good.
And these are things that I've been doing probably not every day. No, not probably. I know that I have not been doing them every day, but I'm striving towards doing them. Is just to, I guess, keep it in my awareness like every day to do. Write something down on paper, like something that I'm going to follow through on for it. Research or read or listen to an audio about something related to the business somehow. Affirmations to keep me going.
Do you have a good affirmation?
No, I need to think about those.
Yeah,
but,
and I like a 3-part affirmation.
I am blank.
Or
make it a noun, not an adverb or verb.
Yeah. Okay. We can work on it together if you want. Just come talk to me, okay?
And visualizing it. It helps. It helps a lot to keep me going.
Yeah, that's good. Really good. Great.
Mine are getting up at 6 and walking every day. Reading either something spiritual or study related. I'm currently reading a book written by a rabbi on the Jewish principles of leadership. So,
which rabbi?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just saw it and I ordered it and
excellent.
So I'm doing that. I'm going to review my calendar every day. I have a tendency not to do that.
I wish I could not look at my calendar.
I know. I look at my calendar a lot. And then there has to be shifting. And,
I look at it at the beginning of the week, and then I have a tendency not to look at it again. I mean, and trusting my memory.
You just switched glasses.
Yes, you did.
I like the red ones. I do like the red ones. Go ahead.
Yeah, they are cute.
They are really cute.
I just look darling.
You look darling. You too.
I know. When you find some glasses that work, I say, I'm going to go back and buy more.
All right, go ahead.
Look for opportunities, more with NE, with seminars, etc. I've pulled back on that, and I so enjoy them, and I so learn from them, and they're great networking opportunities. And I've just been letting other things kind of suck up my time, and I'm going to continue listing my gratefulness. That's just so important. On Saturdays, it's really late when it gets on there because I have to wait till after Shabbos. But it's really making a difference.
May I say, as somebody who has observed your Facebook postings for a number of years, that it's really nice to see the change in your postings.
Thank you.
It is. Yeah. And it makes me want to visit your page more.
Ooh, someone's phone dinged.
Who
I
did?
heard it.
It was over here somewhere.
Mine's isn't even-
Oh, it wasn't one of yours?
Nope. Mine's
I
on
heard it
vibrant. Mine's on silent. Completely.
Somebody needs to sing.
Mine's on silent.
Oh, it was over here somewhere. My right ear hurt. My right ear
It wasn't
hurt.
me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all like an iPhone.
It was an iPhone ding.
I have a droid.
It wasn't one of yours?
No, mine's
Well,
on
I got a
silent.
text, but I've got everything turned down, so you shouldn't hear it.
Ah.
Let's text her.
Yeah. Huh.
That's totally your dad thing.
And I know.
If I need to
Let's
sing
try.
that,
Go ahead, sing.
I'll sing together.
Okay, go ahead. Pick a song.
Group song.
Eensy weensy spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain.
She's good.
Washed the spider
Wow.
out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the eensy weensy spider climbed up the spout again.
Wow. She's got a good voice. I know. You have a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
All right, Barrett.
Wow.
Thank
So,
you.
I want to be mentor for you. These are some of the things that I listed as well as what I'm getting to. So exercise, we talked about being more spiritual.
So your big goal is to be a mentor.
Right.
And then your 5 things, you're going to exercise every day?
Well, exercise every day. Well, I ain't say every day.
No. This is every day.
Some form of exercise.
Okay, every day.
I get it.
Every day. Every day. Remember, discipline. Every day. Every day. Every day.
This is the rule of thumb.
Every day. 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 Okay, so every day you're going to exercise.
You know, each and every day you have to give God the glory, so you have to do some reading, some type of spiritual stuff, right?
Okay.
By reading, and I kind of motivate myself. I got to stay motivated, so I motivate myself every day. And then I want to add more confidence. And more in terms of the mentoring, I need to research. Let me see here, and also read some material based on mentoring. Get some material, and then find the time to do it. So I have to sketch out some time to to get in there and have a time allotted to talk to some of the kids. So that's what I'm gonna be working on, and you kind of help me with that with coaching sessions. So my back is pretty good now. So by the next training session, I would have implemented at least researched it, reached out and contacted them, and get me a kid or whatnot, and go forth. So yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
All right. Sonia.
It's something that I was avoiding, so I didn't want to do professional, I didn't want to do spiritual, so I put exercise.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I actually came up with 6. One is to log meals. Looking at today's conversation, how we talked about writing it down makes you more committed to everything. So
There's some good phone apps.
Yep.
for that.
Fitness
Yeah,
Pal.
really.
I use it,
Yeah.
I use it, I use it.
My
all
Fitness
the
Pal
time.
is a good one. Yeah,
You can look up calories, it's very
yeah,
easy.
it's great.
Would you list on our academy page?
If you remind me,
Thank you.
or you just-
Again, exercise, and that's something I can do every day, even if it's raining. I have an
Yeah.
indoor walking tape that I can just put in the DVD and start walking to that. Write a physical affirmation, something about health every day. And Christina is very on point today. She gave me a lot of pointers in terms of the I am and then have a noun. And you also said to form a habit, start right this second. So that those are things
Right,
that I can do
Christina,
right
good
this
job.
second. Read about health and look at trends, look at diet information, look at how to educate myself better about some of the things you were talking about regarding my health. Eat smarter, I can start doing that right away. And then my sixth thing is to involve.
Ooh, 6.
Yeah,
Ooh,
my
she's
sixth-
overachiever.
yeah, I'm
Overachiever.
overachiever.
Can't forget the
Yeah.
little
Is to involve Trey and Tracy as my accountability partner. So I'll have this log and I'll share them when we do our mentor-mentee sessions.
If you need more help.
No more help.
I love
it.
You know, Fitness Pal.
Fitness
Has
class. I can
friends.
friend you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
that's perfect. I'm on it too. So.
All right.
All right.
So,
Nice.
exercise and health is mine.
Yeah.
Did you say My Fitness Pal?
My
Yeah.
Fitness
Yeah, I
Pal.
think that's the one I'm using to keep track of the calories.
Yeah.
We need to all add each other for
We should, yeah.
Yeah,
friends.
we should. Yeah.
Every day I will track calories. Every day I will make healthier choices. Every day I will drink plenty of water. Every day I will exercise some way, even walking.
Yeah.
Every day I will think it through.
Okay. So be mindful.
Yes.
Good. I love it. Good job. Excellent. All right. So practice the law of consistency. The next one is the law of environment. We won't spend too much time on this law. Basically, growth thrives in conducive environments. Well, I love this space. This, to me, this is a conducive environment. Wherever you are, if you work in a truck, if you work in a cubicle, if you work in your home, if you whatever it is, you can make it a conducive environment with music, with a picture of somebody or something special. You can make it a conducive environment. The law of design is the next one. To maximize growth, you need to develop strategies. So you have to have strategies around everything you do. You need to be strategic. You need to think big picture. You need to think about analyzing what's happening. You need to think about design and development of what you need to do to get to where you want to be. You need to think about execution. You need to think about assessment and evaluation, making modifications. Whether it's in your work or in your life, you need to constantly be developing strategies and then making sure that those strategies are working for you. Thoughts about this? Yeah.
Yeah, one of the strategies, because I am a compulsive overeater, and one of my strategies was actually becoming kosher.
Okay.
Because that meant that I wasn't going to McDonald's, but I wasn't going there because it was fattening and it's not good for me, which could trigger, because I've had a weight problem all my life, which could trigger a lot of emotional, but it wasn't kosher. It wasn't kosher. So it's, that's been actually a really big deal in my life, that when I do eat out, it's vegetarian, and if I don't eat meat that often, because I've been really educating myself on even how kosher animals are treated, and I don't think they're being treated in the most kosher way. So, I've pretty much given, but in terms of like Fritos, I love Fritos, but I won't eat them because they're not kosher. They have the triangle texture. That's not a reliable texture. Right? Okay, so I can't eat them. Yeah, but I'm not telling myself, no, I can't have a food because the food is bad for me. I'm telling me it's not in line with my spiritual beliefs.
That's good.
And it's just one of the biggest changes in my life. I don't feel like I'm slowly losing weight again, and I don't feel like I'm on a diet.
Right.
I mean, I think this is one reason why, even before I started losing weight again, I've been able to maintain over 150-pound weight loss for over 10 years because I started keeping kosher. It's only recently that I've even been digging in deeper of all the laws and deciding, ooh, well, I don't know, if my beef can't be organic, free-range, grass-fed kosher, then I want it.
Right.
You know, it's, and you can't find that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't find that. So, you know,
Good.
just, yeah, I mean, so it's not like I said I'm going to become totally vegetarian or totally vegan or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then have to deal with my own kind of food wanting issues. I go, it's just not kosher.
Yeah. Good.
It's just it's a different path.
For me, like food, right? I love food, but if I had the snacks that I have in the office in my home, it would be bad. And so a strategy for me is just not having them there. And so, right? Because I could sit there with a bag of something like chips, and even though I'm not hungry, you know, I could just eat them. And so and that's mindless eating, and it's really not good.
My mother has snacks,
Yeah.
but I make sure none of them are kosher.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So I can't touch.
So regardless of what it is, have a strategy. Have a strategy for, you know, exercising, or have a strategy for getting your team to where they want to be. Have a strategy for building your business. Have a strategy for, you know.
And it's important to know your own weaknesses.
Yeah, it is.
Because I know every time I try to follow a diet, I hang on like this, and then eventually it becomes too much.
I've never even tried a diet in my life.
Well,
I don't believe in
my mother
diets.
started putting me on diets when I was in 4th grade, you know, and I wasn't even fat then. I mean, when I go back and look, she just decided it was. So, I mean, I have just this really unhealthy attitude towards food, and so I just couldn't go down that road. I had to find another way to get to this goal that didn't trigger any of these other things that would allow me to be successful. And for me, keeping kosher.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. The next law is the law of pain. Okay.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Oh my goodness, who has experienced pain in your life?
Oh, I think we all have.
So you need to think about this. Everybody experiences pain. Nobody likes pain, but few make bad experiences positive experiences. The way people handle pain makes a huge difference between those who are leaders and those who are not. So good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. Through the pain, often really amazing, wonderful things happen. And my favorite Native American proverb is, the soul would have no rainbow, had the eyes no tears. I wouldn't wish adversity on anyone, but through adversity comes amazing rainbows. You know, really good things happen. But a lot of times people are so stuck in the pain and the victim role, quite frankly, that they don't get out of that.
Well, you know, I took power away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being a child that was abused and an incest survivor, I took the power away from that. By owning that, I'll talk to anybody about that. I've counseled people about that, you know, to let people know that you can get on the other side. But what it did, it took the poison of it out of me. There's, you know, it's just who I am and part of what I experienced, but it doesn't defeat me, it doesn't define me, it doesn't limit me. It's just another part of my past. But the good thing is that I can't tell you the number of people that I've spoken to who said, well, I never shared this with anyone. I never shared it with anyone. And we'll sit down and we'll talk, and at the end, I mean, they just go, wow. You know, it's just, it doesn't have to define you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to limit you for the rest of your life. You know,
Right.
you can take it's horrible, absolutely horrible. But you can take something and you can take this horrible, horrible thing, and you can use it to build yourself stronger, or you can make a difference in someone else's
Yeah, the people I was working with last week,
Yeah.
everyone having their own story, had been through a lot of pain.
Yeah.
One was a veteran who came back from 2 tours overseas and was shot in California in a random shooting,
Oh, no.
and he's paralyzed now, and yet he is one of the most positive. Like, it blew my mind how positive he was, and he is all about the law of attraction is his thing, and so. He's like, I'm just putting this positive energy out there, and
Something good's gonna come from it.
and he has children, and him and his wife were separated, and I'm sure the accident didn't help matters, but he's like, they get along great, everything's good for him. He's got a successful business. He said, I could have stayed stuck in the state that I was in, but it happened, and what am I going to do about it? But just move forward with it, So yeah, let's talk about some different pain files.
By the way, I just noticed before I lose it, Mazel tov on finding your necklace.
Oh my gosh, yes, this was huge.
That was a pain.
This was a pain that was killing me, Okay,
Yes.
so my great-grandmother's necklace, my great-grandmother, when she was 94 years old, gave me this necklace, which she had for years, and it was blessed by the Pope. She was 94 years old. She took it from around her neck, and she had worn it every day. Took it from around her neck, and she put it around my neck, and she said, I want you to wear this every day, and I will watch over you forever. And I did it, and I was like 19, and I wore it every day. And I'm not saying that I never don't wear it. Like, I won't wear it when I'm scuba diving. I won't wear it when I'm on a bicycle. But I wear it every day. And gosh, in November it went missing, and it happened to be I had a foster kitty who was in heat, and the cat went crazy one night, and I had plugs in my ears. I sleep with earplugs because I'm so sensitive to noise. And I could hear her through the earplugs making these yowling sounds, and I heard her kind of darting through the house, and I heard my necklace get dragged off the table, and I thought to myself, oh dear, I'm going to need to look for that in the morning. And I looked in the morning, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I needed to get to an appointment, and I looked that night, and I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I looked for months. And I would take breaks from looking, and then I started to doubt myself. I started to think, was it actually on the nightstand? Did it really happen this way? Am I losing it? Because I tore the place up, and I couldn't find it. People are like, did she swallow it? I'm like, absolutely not. No way would any, this thing's huge. No way. Absolutely not. Well, the night before my Dominica trip, I've had some serious health challenges, like major health things happening right now, and I still don't know what's happening. And I didn't think I was going to make the trip, and basically the doctors pumped me full of antibiotics and steroids to get me through the back-to-back trips, and so I was kind of okay. And 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm still packing because this is me and my dad. We're made from the same cloth. We're last minute packers. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm thinking, okay, one thing I always do on these trips with the scuba group is we bring supplies to orphanages or schools in need. And so I was looking for a bag to put the supplies in. So I go digging for a bag. And I look, and it is buried, this bag, under other bags. She had somehow dragged it and stuffed it in the inside of a bag that I haven't touched in years. And she stuffed it in that, and so I go, and I'm like, oh, this bag might, no way. No, the night before my trip, and I started crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got it. Oh my God. And so, of course, my Facebook posting, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. Because I told everyone's like, did you find it yet? No, I didn't find it yet. Believe me, when I find it, you're going to know I found it. But that was painful to be separated from it. But I kept telling everyone, it's going to come back to me.
Well, you did keep saying that.
Faith.
And I
It's going to come back to me. It's going to come back to me.
Then I noticed you were wearing it.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And I just wanted you to know
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy for you.
Thank you. So let's talk about the pain file. Inexperience is one. I've never been through that. Incompetence, I should have seen it coming. Disappointment, I wish it had never happened. Conflict, human encounter doesn't always feel good.
That's true.
Change, I didn't want that to happen. Bad health, I lost what I thought I would always have. Hard decisions, you can't make everyone happy. Financial loss, if only I could get that back. Relationship losses, some people will grow in a different direction than I. Not being number one, I deserved to be there. Traveling, when I'm away, I feel. And the pain of responsibility, they expect so much from me. So with pain, you have a choice. And for me, out of pain normally comes really great things. And often before something really amazing happens in your life, a big pain happens. If you think about the history of your life and all the really good things that have happened, I want you to back up 3 to 6 months and think about how awful it was right before then. Almost always following a storm in your life, something really great happens. So, just know that pain is part of life, and you have a choice to be stuck in the pain or to move through the pain. Next one is the law of the ladder. And character growth determines the height of your personal growth. So there are rungs on the character ladder, and you need to think about that. So focus on being better on the inside than the outside. When you look at that mirror, think about what's deep inside of you, even though the red glasses are cute. So character matters. Follow the golden rule. People matter, right? And then teach only what you believe. Passion matters. So borrowed beliefs are not own beliefs. Anyone who works for an organization or has to basically teach or train or share something about an organization that they don't fully believe in or have a passion about knows that others see through that, and it's not fulfilling. So think about also valuing humility above all other virtues. Perspective matters, and then striving to finish well with faithfulness. So in life, you can never stop. You either finish or you keep going. That's why it's so important to keep working on being a better version of yourself, even when things are great. Matter of fact, when things are great, you need to work harder on being a better version of yourself, all right? So our character is being developed until we are finished. Do you want to be finished now? No. Okay? So think about a place in your life where you haven't fully developed on the inside or the outside. And think about how much time you spend with that. Schedule time to develop your character in those areas. And then think about this. Emergencies don't develop character, they reveal it.
True.
Okay? So how many of you have watched others who've gone through a crisis and you've been surprised by their character, either positive or negative? So emergencies don't develop character, they reveal it. That's the law of the ladder. Any other thoughts on the law of the ladder? Getting tired? Everyone get tired? Yeah. Do we need to stretch? Are we good? We're good? Okay. Let's stretch then. Let's get up. Let's get up. I agree, it wouldn't hurt. Bodie's
Talking
glued
about
to Tracy.
exercise,
Oh,
Does this
yeah.
count?
Yeah. Only if you really
Oh,
start
they're
doing.
like,
Bodie's not stretching.
He's kind of stretching. Bodie, Bodie, what you doing? You have not left his side. What's happening? What's happening? What is it? You keep looking at him. What's happening? He's not given major stress cues. He's just really, really glued to you. Aww.
Aww.
He's rolled over
What
like.
kind of
He
stress
wants
cues
a
do you
belly
think he gets
rub.
off?
Well, when he's sitting, he will put a paw up on somebody's leg. You've seen him do that to you. I know. And if he puts two paws up, then you're in trouble. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
That's so one paw up is, oh my gosh, I'm really worried about the person. Two paws up is,
I've had one, not two.
yeah, two is
He has
major.
never
Major.
put his paw on me.
Bodie up.
And he probably
Let's
should.
get Bodie up. So he has to be sitting in order for him to do it.
Oh, he does?
Full assessment. Yeah. Gets a shake off. Yeah, Bodie. Aw, honey. He likes
Look at that tail.
you. He likes you.
They're bonding.
I know. Do you have a dog?
I have two.
Aw.
Hey, Bodie.
I think he knows I'm just a good pet.
Yeah, so far he's just, so the lean just means he loves you. So.
I'm a good petter of dogs.
Yes, so far that's all it is.
You know their sweet spots.
All right, so the next one we'll talk about is one I really love. It's the law of the rubber band.
Right.
Rubber band. So what happens to a rubber band when it sits for 6 months, a year, 2 years?
It dries out and it breaks.
It dries out, it loses its elasticity, it's no longer able to stretch, right? So growth stops when you lose the tension between where you are and where you could be. You do not want to be the dried up rubber band. You want to keep stretching, right? You want to keep that elastic strong. And so it's easy to be average, unfortunately. Mediocrity is not a worthy goal. A lot of people in this world are okay with mediocrity. And honestly, they often complain about their mediocrity. They just complain. They're just sitting there like, oh, thank God it's Friday. You know, I got a case of the Mondays. And they're, a lot of times they're self-medicating themselves through the weekend because they can't stand their lives and they're not doing anything about it. Abraham Maslow said, if you plan on being anything less than you're capable of being, you will probably be unhappy the rest of your life. So stretching always requires change, and it always requires taking a risk. It's never too late, you can tell this to your mother, to be what you might have been. It's never too late. So stretching is a lifelong pursuit, and we need to constantly work to to grow, to learn, and to improve and to give more. People are so often settled into their everyday lives, and they're afraid of change, so they settle. They settle for jobs that they're not happy with. They settle for relationships they're not happy with, and they basically settle for themselves, and they're not happy with themselves. So Rabbi Nahman said, if you won't be better tomorrow than today, then what do you need tomorrow for? Okay. So just as exercise can be addictive to the athlete, so can stretching to the achiever. And remember that stretching is not an arrival point to stop stretching. You got to keep stretching, or you will become that dried up rubber band.
No, thank you.
All right? So what are you doing to stretch yourself?
Here.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say to this.
Yeah, this is big. This is a big commitment.
Stretching to reach Bodie.
This and like the classes.
The
I'm
classes,
taking.
and yeah, this is good.
And actually taking care of my mother is
It's a big
stretching
stretch,
myself.
I know, especially when you describe.
It's not, yeah, but it's stretching me because I'm not going to change to be less than the person I want to be.
Yeah.
And that's very tempting.
I
But
know,
I'm not going to do
It's good.
that. It's just, I'm not going to do it.
Marcia, you're really stretching yourself.
Oh my gosh, beyond
Yeah.
my comfort zone.
It's awesome.
Way out there.
Awesome.
Way out there. It's very hard.
It's hard. Anything worth doing is hard.
Exactly. That's what I keep telling myself.
And when you get there,
Yeah.
it's going to be so worth it. You're going to look back. I can tell you, I've had people sit in the very seat you're in, and they were at the same point you're in, and Sonia's kind of in the same place where you're like, you're about to make this leap into something different. And, you know, once you get to that place, whew, it's awesome.
So you need a bigger conference room.
Right? Barry, what about you? What are you doing to stretch yourself?
Well, again, coming to leadership training like this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and just positive affirmations, you know, I do have my self-time where I just, you know, keep telling myself, you know, good affirmations, because we know that the negative stuff will overcome if you let it. So I do things like that to stretch myself. And of course, you know, I think about my past, and by not stretching myself, where am I?
Yes.
So that's motivating there, especially in terms of my health. So I just look back on the past and learn from that, and take these new ideas and keep stretching.
Good. All right. Sonia?
I'm so excited. I'm excited about life. I'm excited about the future and the possibilities. And I'm excited about right now because it's like what Christina said, stop waiting, stop
Yeah.
putting it off. Applying for the deputy director position 2 years ago, never. No way. Heavens
Oh,
no.
you make a great.
Yeah.
You make a great director.
But
Yeah.
that was so far out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And then the consulting business. And
Yeah.
little by little, I do have a job lined up for the 29th. So I'm going to do that. I already did one at one church last month. So little
Great.
by little.
And the Ernie Sims thing is going to work out? Good. They just rescheduled the date.
Right.
Excellent. I love it. Hey.
Great.
Good deal. Awesome. Christina?
Just trying to improve myself.
Good.
So I'm stretching to love myself.
Good. That's big. Everything will change.
Exercise is really helping me right now.
It does help.
It's
You
motivating me.
appear more confident in this class than you did at
Yeah.
the beginning.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if
Oh,
you
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Qualitatively. Oh, yes, yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
You- When you first came in, you gave the impression that you didn't think you belonged here.
Yeah.
But you do belong here, and I think you're realizing it, and you're a great asset to this class.
Thank you. Absolutely. And I'm crying, so.
Yay. Aw. Does that feel good? Good.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yay. That makes me feel good. I'm about to cry. Let's all just cry. Group hug. It was happy tears. He said he doesn't worry about happy tears. So, all right. The next one I said is the law of trade-offs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Yes. And basically, it says you have to give up to grow up. But I like to call it the law of trade-ups. And the reason why is so many of us are doing things, such as watching TV, and we need to get rid of things that are not adding value to our lives and replace it with something else. To me, it's not a trade-off, it's a trade-up. We need to replace it with something that's better. So think about what will it take for you to get to the next level? What are you willing to give up to go to the next level? What are you willing to give up? You have to give something up. You can't keep adding things to your schedule, for example. You got to purge some things that aren't adding value, that aren't getting you to where you want to be. A lot of people have tons of things in their calendar that aren't adding to their goals, that aren't even networking things, quite frankly, for those of you who are involved in a lot of networking things. Some of them are not necessarily fulfilling. Some of you've moved past where, whatever it is, think about what can you purge. Think about who can you purge. There are certain people who don't necessarily belong in your life, that don't add value. And that's hard. But certain people don't belong. Certain people are takers, and you might be a giver, and you might have just been given to that person for so long that it's really not helping any of you. So what are you going to give up? And what are you going to replace it with? I want you to really think about that. So the hardest part about stealing second base is taking your foot off of first base. Not willing to give something up is a key reason why most people don't actually ever reach their full potential. Trade-offs are available to us throughout our lives. Unsuccessful people make bad trade-offs. Average make few trade-offs, and successful people make good trade-offs. Trade-offs are opportunities for growth. So I want you to think about what it is you need to trade up. Okay? What are the pluses and minuses of the trade-off? And then will you go through the change, or will you grow through the change of making this trade-off? All right, who wants to share something they're going to give up, and what are you going to replace it with? Something or someone? Yes. I love it, Trey.
We have joined Springtime Tallahassee, one of the crews.
Oh, wow.
We've been trying to get recruited for a while, and it finally happened. We went to a party. I actually got to use my elevator speech.
All right.
I couldn't get rid of that for 20 minutes.
Awesome.
I mean, he was just something.
Yeah.
But so it's about getting off of that couch and my luxury time at home and getting around the 200 or 300 people that's going to be in that crew, working as a team to build that boat and everything else. So that's what we're doing.
All right.
That's cool.
Nice.
That's really cool.
That is cool. All right. Who else?
I gave up trying to rescue a long-term friend. In fact, I allowed her and her daughter to live with me for a year without paying any rent or utilities while she was supposed to be going back to school to finish her nursing degree. And she did not do that. And it was one of the hardest things, setting a date certain that she had to move out and do it. And she got another job, and so she was doing, well, she called me because she lost that job, and she's saying, well, we're going to be evicted, and da-da-da-da. And I said, well, Tammy, I'm very sorry. My plate is full right now. You perhaps should talk to someone in your church. And no, it'll hold me up. I said, Tammy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My plate is full. That was a trade-off, because I don't have any more to give if I'm going to be able to continue to doing the few things that I'm doing that are really nurturing me emotionally and spiritually and professionally, the things that I'm doing. I cannot add another major thing to my life.
Yeah.
I have to put me first in this.
Yeah, I've had to purge people out of my life. By nature, I'm a giver. But there are certain people that recognize that and have taken advantage of it. And I don't fault them, I fault me.
Yeah.
I fault me because...
No, I'm not saying she's a bad person.
No, I don't either. I'm just saying at
rescue
some
man.
point you have to draw a boundary, because you're not being a service to that person. You're not helping them, you're not helping you. It's not a good thing. It's not a healthy thing. And so I've been really good about setting those boundaries.
Though,
it's hard
because it goes against our nature that
I know.
we want to help, we want to make a difference, but sometimes the making the difference is saying no.
Yeah, you're right.
Kindness or weakness.
Yeah.
I don't want to be an enabler, and and I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't have the energy to take her on again.
Right.
Just can't happen.
Anyone else? Anyone else gonna give up anything? No, nothing.
Oh, I gave up almost all my political groups on Facebook.
Good. Good. And let me just say, I've cautioned you all before about posting things politically. Be really careful about what you post politically. Be also really careful about content you share. If, for example, you're sharing content that puts a certain group down, a certain government down, even if it's city government, for example, if it's just be careful, because you never know when an opportunity might present itself where they're going to go, you know what, this person doesn't like us, and so we're not even going to think about them for this opportunity. So be really careful when you share content. So I'm saying that because I'm not going to call people out, but at least two of you.
Well, I could be easily called out for that, and I'll admit.
Yeah. So okay.
So I'm going through.
So I want you to be really careful.
Yes.
Because you've gotten better,
Mm-hmm.
but there are still things.
There are still things that trigger me. Yeah.
And you need to just bite your tongue and stop sharing that kind of content. You're one of them. You're not the only one.
Wow.
Okay.
When I hold my mirror up, although I see my I see my dimples and my warts.
What I want you to do before you share any content in any online platform is I want you to think, what would a potential connection, whether it's a future employer, a business contact, somebody I care about, what would they think about this? So, okay?
I'll continue.
You're not the only person.
No, I know I'm not.
And so I want other people in the room to be aware of that as well, of what you're sharing, and just be very careful because you know the perception of who you are may be hampered by what you're sharing. Okay. So, all right. Anyone else gonna give anything up? Sonia, you mentioned TV. You gonna give up?
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
nobody's
think
giving
at the same
anything up.
time. Okay.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to give up TV to free up doing some of the things that I have started. So I started, stop. We had this session on the LinkedIn page, and there's a whole lot of stuff that I can do with that. I've talked to one of the guys on my job about doing web design, and I have all these projects that I have lined up to get me strategically in place for the consulting business and stuff. So definitely, that's just the tip of the iceberg, though, is the television.
Good. Anyone else?
Well, I guess for me, I just need to just utilize my time, instead of just going home and once I get home, I'm done. I don't, I watch the TV, might do some work in the yard, but I know I can utilize my time more just by, just that is going home, So one of the things we talked about is mentoring the kids. So I don't do stuff like that. But you get home and I don't feel productive when I just go home and just don't do nothing.
Yeah.
It's like something's missing. So I just want to just utilize my time to benefit others and benefit myself as well. So utilize the time.
So when are you going to start doing that?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. So it's probably soon.
Not probably soon.
Yeah.
You know what that tells me? You're not going to do anything different. When are you going to start doing that? When are you?
Today.
Okay, that's better. You see what I'm saying? So the way people respond to that question tells me when how successful they're going to be. So if you really do start today, then it'll actually be a trade up. Okay.
I've added boot camp to my workout.
Ooh.
So I do 3 days of personal training, and then last night I did my first Wednesday night class, but I've done 2 other Saturday classes. So that's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. 2 boot camps and 3 personal training sessions.
So what was in that time slot before that you're giving up? Sleep?
No.
What was in that time slot? Nothing?
Nothing.
So you were like watching TV or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
okay, good.
home.
Perfect. Good deal. Okay.
And I felt positive already from just going, because I'm one of the youngest ones at the boot camp. But I look up to all the older people and I say, okay, I want to follow you because I know you remember what to do and they can show me how to do it.
Good.
So.
Great. So change is uncomfortable. Making changes like purging things, going to networking events, replacing whatever it is you were doing that was comfortable with something that's uncomfortable. So let's do a quick exercise and change. Everyone hold both hands out, okay? And now I want you to clasp them together so that one thumb ends up on top of the other thumb, okay? How many of you have the right thumb on top? If so, raise it up, okay? If the left thumb's on top, put it down, okay? Keep that in mind, right or left. Now, keep the hands apart and intentionally switch the thumbs so that the other thumb is on top. Normally, it feels pretty uncomfortable for people. So change is uncomfortable. Change is awkward and uncomfortable, but it's necessary. So change is always possible, but we need to remember certain things about change. To change your life, you need to change. Change is profitable. You will be rewarded when you change. And then think about this. Changing when you have to gives you a win. Changing after you have to leads to a loss. Refusing to change is death to your potential. Okay. Now, with regard to trade-offs, some trade-offs are not ever worth the price. And these are the trade-offs that will do harm. And so, can you think of trade-offs that are not worth the price? There are certain trade-offs that are not worth the price.
Your health.
Okay, that would be one. Yeah. Faith, there you go. Yeah. And it mainly deals with values, with our personal values. Okay? So, for everything you gain, you give something up. Here are 10 trade-offs worth making. Affirmation for accomplishment. Security for significance. Financial gain for potential. Immediate pleasure for personal growth. Exploration for focus. Quantity of life for quality of life. Acceptable for excellent. Addition for multiplication. First half for second half. And spiritual work for spiritual walk. 10 trade-offs worth making. Let's go to the law of curiosity. Growth is stimulated by asking why. When we're kids, we ask why all the time. Often to the annoyance of our elders. And we tend to lose that when we get older, probably because the grown-ups got tired of us saying it. But truly, if we want to grow, we need to ask why. We need to ask why of ourselves, too. What's motivating us? Why are we neglecting some of the things that are most important to us? Sonia, in the last session, we shared with everybody that we had this coaching session, and we'd gone through this whole thing. We talked about how important your health was, and we did this affirmation, and I said, is anything missing? And you said no, and come down to it, and health was missing. You completely neglected your health again. And it was like an epiphany moment. Why? Why do you keep, and when you get to the heart of it and you figure that out, you can completely transform. So ask yourself why. Ask yourself why you're stuck. Ask yourself why you don't have a goal. Ask yourself why, there's not something bigger. Ask yourself why. And you will get to a lot of really good questions. When somebody comes to you and they have a problem and you ask them to bring you solutions instead and you ask them why, you'll get to a lot greater things. So any thoughts about the law of curiosity?
If you ask why, sometimes you get really interesting opportunities that don't ever tell anybody. But this at city of Tallahassee, they had one of their electrical trucks out there with the cherry picker, and I was talking to the guy, and I said that I had never been in a cherry picker. And how it works, everything. Yeah. Don't you tell on me.
Wait, was it Talquin or City of Tallahassee?
I know he's called your Talquin, but don't talk to your counterpart.
Was it Talquin? No, these two were City of Tallahassee.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. So he let me go up in the chair. Now, this was about 5 or 6 years ago. He let me go out in the cherry
Well, the
picker.
cup was always
And
right.
it was just kind of really exciting, but if I hadn't have talked to him
Uh-huh.
and chatted with him, he would have never taken me out there. And I got to stick my head down in the sewer things before to see what it looks like down there. I mean, not that I want to go down there, but I mean, you know, you can ask people all
Oh,
sorts of
yeah.
things.
True story. I drove an unair conditioned bucket truck, aka cherry picker, for years. Okay, and I used to I wore a dress and heels when I worked for the school board in Panama City, and I drove this truck. And I used to have my assistant with me, and she also wore a dress and heels. And we get all kinds of weird looks like, wait, what are these two ladies driving this truck for? But all the time we would get stopped, and people would ask us about the truck, and, they'd want rides in it and all kinds of things. We would go to schools, and we would, help them paint their flagpoles and things that were a little outside of our job duties. But it is kind of fun. I gotta say, it's kind of fun.
You know?
I didn't really want to give it up when it came time, and I didn't. So.
But it's amazing if somebody really loves you, or even if you're asking someone why they're doing it, or
Yeah.
they'll take the time and explain to you.
Yeah.
And it'll be something I know nothing about.
So the key is to ask in a nice way. So if you're like, why are you doing that? Then you're not gonna get.
But if you start
But if
with,
you say,
how cool is that?
Exactly.
Why are you doing it that way?
yeah, or tell me a little bit more about, I am so interested in what you're doing. Can I'd love to learn more about it. Why is it?
How did you become this?
Yeah.
What did, I do a lot of that. How
Yeah.
did you become this?
Yeah.
Was this what you wanted to be, or how did
Yeah.
it happen?
Yeah. Well, and like.
Linemen love to show off anyway.
Yes.
Linemen love to show off.
Yes. But that's okay,
Aw,
because I got my
They
ride.
have a very unique job, so.
Yes,
a very dangerous job.
It's a very deep.
They're very proud of it.
And during the storms, I was running around with water and donuts.
And can you imagine this lineman scuba diving who lives in this place, in this rural area where he'd never met in his life anyone with a disability, and all of a sudden, he was electrocuted and lost his arms, and suddenly he is the only person that he knows with a disability, and he felt completely isolated, and suddenly he's around other people that are a little more like him, and he felt a sense of normalcy there, and but I mean, I just can't even imagine. So,
Thank goodness for the internet, because now that he knows there's out there, he can perhaps stay in touch.
I think he's in such a rural area that he doesn't really have a lot of internet, a lot of internet access.
Oh,
So,
that
yeah.
is hard.
So I really, really think he's been completely
Isolated.
isolated. He really hasn't, But anyway, all right. So that's the law of curiosity. The next one is one of my favorites, the law of modeling. It's hard to improve when you have no one else but yourself to follow. This is one reason we have mentors in the Leadership Academy. You need to think about the fact that there's always more to learn, and there's always more to learn from other people. And they don't need to be more experienced than you. They don't need to be in the same field as you. They don't need to be, older than you. They just need to be somebody who is willing to ask those questions and have that curiosity to help you get to where you want to be. Now, one reason I have a picture of bikes up there, I'm really into cycling, is that in cycling, you have a leader. And in cycling, if you cycle alone, you're always slower than if you ride in a team. Always. And when you ride in a team, you draft on each other. And the person in the lead takes the lead, and they pull the team. And then what happens is they fall back, and they let somebody else be the leader. And that person assumes the role, and they pull the team. And I just love that concept of everybody is a leader on the team. It's not one person going, you do this, And so it is, and Trey, we've talked about this, it's hard sometimes when you think you have the answers to just bring people to the answers. But when you're a leader, it's really important to ask those questions of your people, to let them find their own answers. And then they'll have a lot more ownership in it. But with regard to modeling, you've got to really think about who are your mentors, and it's okay to have more than one mentor too. So good. Any thoughts about modeling and who?
It's not just for learning good things, that's for learning bad things too.
You're
If
right
you pay
about that.
attention to the things people do that are bad, then you make sure you don't do them.
You're right about that. Yeah, that's true.
I learned a lot from bad leaders.
I have too. I've thought this is definitely not how I want to lead. You talked about that, Marcia, too, right? Yeah. This is not who I want to be. When I'm in a position of leadership, I will not be that way. I will not treat my people that way. I will not be that way. And then I've met others that I'm like, I will emulate this person. This person is
That is really good behavior. I like that.
Yes.
And you can take bits and pieces from a person
Sure.
for the
Yeah.
modeling.
That's what I've always done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no one person that is perfect.
no,
Right.
but there are some real, like Mary Pentekowski. There's
Oh,
lots
yeah.
of things about Mary.
Who knows who she's talking about? All right. Why don't you share a little bit about Mary?
Mary was she was an administrator of FSU, and then she retired, and then she went to law school, and she was a prosecutor, and she dealt with juvenile justice. She joined the board of TCC, and she raised over $1 million for kids who have screwed up that are not going to be eligible for federal financial aid, because if you have a criminal record, you can't get federal financial aid. They can get a scholarship at TCC, and she helped raise over $1 million for that. She's in Rotary. She's been on lots of trips, community service. She is so active in this town, but and those are all marvelous things, but I tell you what I modeled from her is that when she is with you and you're talking with her, you have her undivided attention.
Yeah.
She's not being distracted by anyone or anything else. She is totally focused on you and what you need. And that's what I'm trying to emulate from Mary.
I believe we gave her a key to the city. What's she?
Yeah, probably. She's an amazing fundraiser.
Yeah, we gave her a key to the city last night.
I think she did get a key to the
Yeah.
city. She's a phenomenal lady.
Yeah.
And she's a Rotarian,
Yes, she is. We were presidents both in the same year.
Yeah.
Worked on projects together.
Wow. So,
Kind of like David Ross too.
right.
He's turned people's minds because the baseball player, and then now he's a dancer, and shows the guys that they can actually do things other than sports.
Uh-huh.
Well, Tim Tebow is kind of a role model, although I'm not into sports, but I mean, he was like this Heisman Trophy, and it seems every time that he kind of gets someplace, he gets knocked back down. But what you see is that he stays positive, he stays focused, you don't hear him talking negative.
Right.
I'd be utterly shocked to find out that he was arrested for a DUI. I don't even think he drinks.
He doesn't
But I
drink.
mean, I would like, that's a role model, even though I'm not into sports at all. That's someone who handles adversity with grace and confidence and kindness.
Mm-hmm. So, what other mentors do you have in your life?
Right, that's Pat McCray.
Ah, very nice.
Jim was a big one.
That's right. Good.
Oh, okay.
What's that?
Pictures right here.
Sky King.
Okay.
That was a program when I was a little girl, and he had a ranch out in the country, and he had his niece and his nephew who came to live with him, and you never got the background story about it. But the stories always had the kids always wanted to live up to their Uncle Sky. They wanted his approval, and there was always kind of like on Leave It to Beaver, a moral to the story. But as a little kid, I often asked myself, Sky King was my uncle. What would he think about this? I mean, I really did that as a kid. And so here's this actor who actually was the mentor, and you know, I never met him, he never met me, and he was just playing a part on TV.
Okay.
But I think you can find your mentors many, many places. They don't even have to be, you know.
It definitely doesn't have to be someone you know. One of my first, well, my dad is one of my biggest mentors and still is. One of my first mentors was John Maxwell, and it was long before I met him, you know. And in my early 20s, I started reading his books. And I never knew that I was going to, you know, meet him and actually have him as a mentor. But, you know, so you don't necessarily have to know somebody to have them as a mentor. You can just read their work and follow, you know, emulate them. So, yeah.
I've been a people watcher for a long time. You can learn stuff from anybody.
Oh,
You're right.
Anybody.
Yeah.
I recently joined a small group of CEOs, and so we've got this group of 6. We call it a CEO exchange.
Oh, that's good.
That's essentially a mentoring group.
Yeah.
We meet every 2 months, and
Right.
Somebody brings up a topic, and then we discuss that topic, and everybody brings their ideas to the table.
That's good. Yeah. Really good.
And certainly you.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, thank
Certainly.
you. So, all right.
You can learn stuff just sitting in the mall watching people.
I know you can. You can learn a lot. You can learn an awful lot. All right. The next one is the law of expansion. You must know yourself to grow yourself. And this is Renee, and she was a last year Leadership Academy participant on the right side. But you need to, and she's in the Returning Leader Academy this year, but you need to know yourself. You need to know what your strengths are. You need to know what you need to work on. You need to know everything about yourself. You know, self-awareness is the key. If you're not aware of things, maybe, for example, in organizations, 360 evaluations are great because then you get to the heart of what's really going on. Sometimes we don't know. We think we know, but we don't really know. So when you have an awareness of these things, you're able to make positive changes. So you need to know yourself to grow yourself. So what do you know, and what do you think you need to know that you don't know? Is there anything you don't know about yourself? What do you think you've learned about yourself, let's say in the last 6 months, maybe since the Leadership Academy started? The last 6 to 7 months since the Leadership Academy started, what maybe have you learned about yourself that you didn't maybe know before? Think about that. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Give you 2 minutes to think about it. I want you to just think. Surely you've learned something about yourself. We can get up and take breaks and get water and stuff, okay? And think about it. All right? Everyone think. Stretch, think. I'm going to make a phone call. I'm getting a batch of foster kittens.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have any black ones, let me know.
I probably will. We'll see. Yeah, restroom break would be good. So again, you're taking Capitol Circle, you turn right onto Mayhem, which is Highway 90, and then you turn right onto Powell Road, and then it's going to be on the
So
left
which
side.
body tried to get to the floor?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I started out Clarn, then quit for a while, then went to Park Avenue, and then went back to Clarn.
Yeah, I knew James before he got married, then he got married.
Yeah.
Then I had 2 Matts, trainers.
Yes. I miss Max.
And one went to Tampa. They're awesome.
Oh,
They're really
the one from Tampa, I miss him so much.
Yeah.
But my trainer now is pushing me to limits that I've never gone before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually good.
Mm-hmm.
I keep telling him, he started last week, and from day one he was tough. I was like, why?
I really do. What's wrong?
100-pound deadlifts on the second day of training me. This little girl that really doesn't have much muscle. Yeah. He believes in me, so that's all that really matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, the transformation, Christina, is like.
Like a contributor to the class. I mean, you
Yeah.
noticed how much
I know.
she was even feeding you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really wonderful.
It is
to
wonderful.
see.
And I'm taking notes that are coming out of your mouth. I'm like, okay.
No one listens to me, so that's really good.
That's not true. We do.
I meant other people.
And it's funny because when we did the elevator speech, that was my hardest session so far. And you knocked it out of the park. I remember that was a turning point for her. What was your line?
My boss's lifesaver.
Lifesaver, yeah. I remember.
Oh, lifelong.
Yeah.
All right, are we back?
I meant to tell you
Uh-huh.
that I'm doing my first Toastmaster speech
Oh,
in July.
that's amazing.
And it's the first one is the icebreaker, so I'm going to go through my adversities of being overweight and overcoming being where I am today.
Fantastic. What date is that?
The 18th, I think, Tuesday.
That's awesome. So is it is your Toastmasters group in the city or is it okay? Good. It's a really good organization. So.
Yeah, we started
Freezing.
charter. We started charter,
Okay, good.
the 18th.
Yeah, I was in front of us in Toastmasters too. I saw this thing too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different chapters, but it's really, really good. So. Okay. Well, that's nice. I thought I was going to need to drive to the Wakulla County shelter to go pick up these foster kittens, but it looks like a volunteer is going to drive them to me here. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not picking them out. I said I'm willing to take a mama and babies if you have them, and they're so overloaded right now. So
Yeah, I see the post every day.
I know. So.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah, it breaks mine too. And I fostered 662 up to this point. So, and it was breaking my heart because I had these international trips and I couldn't commit to fostering while I was away. And it breaks my heart because I normally step up and I couldn't step up because I knew that I was leaving. So, I told myself as soon as I get back, I'll.
Let me know if you have a black one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll take over the news too.
All right.
Just
My
my
parents
10
go-
groups on Facebook.
Awesome. Hey, she's following the purging thing. Good. Good.
I am following through.
Okay, good. No more posting political stuff.
Not 100%.
No.
I have to post stuff about Israel.
Okay, that's fine. Just be careful. Just be
Okay.
careful. All right.
I can't go cold turkey.
So you need to know.
And dog abuse.
That's dog abuse is fine. Everyone's on board with that. Okay, except for the dog abusers, and you don't really want to be associated with them anymore.
You don't care about
Yeah.
that.
So we're talking about knowing yourself to grow yourself when we left. So everyone feel like you know yourself. what do you think you might have learned about yourself in the last 6 to 7 months that you didn't know previously? Does anyone learn anything?
I think I learned something.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying I learned a lot from this class in terms of being a leader. You know, I read a lot of stuff about being a leader, but to hear all these ideas and be around leaders or even emerging leaders, I had no idea that all the things that it takes to be a leader. So, I mean, this class is very impactful. So it really impacted me. So I really learned a lot.
Good. And I want to say I've seen a big change in you too, Barry. And so, I mean, we called out Christina earlier, but I also want to say that I've noticed a change in Barry because I felt like Barry kind of had the same kind of, I don't really know if I belong here kind of vibe when he first got here. And clearly you do. And so it's good to have you here. It's good to have everybody here. Everybody belongs. So, all right, who else?
I learned there's a big difference between being a leader and being someone who will simply take charge if necessary. I mean, I'm one of these people, if everybody's floundering, that I will just take charge until, you know, but that's different than being a leader.
Yeah.
And there's been many instances where the whole thing was going to heck in a handbasket. And so I just kind of stepped up but that's not leadership. That was somebody, you know, almost playing a parent role. Okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, let's get this together, you know. And that's completely different than leadership. And that, you know, so this leadership is what I want. I don't want to be the one that comes in and cleans up the mess.
Except that you might need to be
Well, I mean, I think I've got that skill down pat.
Well, don't let that go.
I won't let it go.
Yeah.
I won't let it go, but I think I need to work more on the leadership than, okay, folks, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, good. You know you have that skill when needed.
I know I have it when needed,
Yeah.
and I just don't need it right now.
Good. Who else? What have you learned about yourself?
I'm learning that I belong at the table. And it took me a long time to get there. I'm still a work in progress. I have talked to more executive leadership people since I joined this session than I ever dreamed of. I had a meeting with our chief of staff today. And our secretary just got appointed. She's a woman. And I wrote a letter to her because I met her through the thing at FSU. The FSU workshop that you introduced me to. And so just little itty bitty tips and nudges and things like that. But before I would never approach people that I thought were at such and such a level. But now just
We're all human beings. Yeah.
so I belong at the table.
Good. Really good.
Saying thank you.
Okay.
I'm back today.
All right.
I think I have a greater capacity for emotional intelligence.
Oh, I love it. Yes, that makes me happy to hear. Good. Anyone else learned anything?
Go ahead.
Let's see. I think there's been many, but I don't think I've been able to narrow them down. But I think just really additional time for reflection and knowing that I'm capable, even though I thought I was doing a lot, I'm capable of doing much more. And incorporating self-care into all that.
Good. Self-care is so important.
Yeah, and
Good.
it was something that definitely wasn't there.
It's just, you know, that I do belong at the table. I am much more comfortable around my higher executives now. What it takes to be a leader than just having the title of a leader. And just the different phases of what it takes to be that leader. You know, it's everything. And there were some things that I wasn't willing to talk about. And now I'm a little bit more forthcoming with it.
That's great.
It's good.
You're doing good. You're doing good, Terry. Great. Good.
Well, and I'll follow up on that a little bit. I think for me, I was actually surprised that with some of the aspects of leadership, I just was unaware. You know, I thought of leadership probably as you did. And I was very surprised with this class that topics that we were discussing. And that was something that, I went back to some of my other leaders in the community, and I was like, I'm taking this leadership class, and it was nothing of what I expected Leadership Academy to be. Yeah, I thought it was, I don't know, we're going to go over, authoritative, or all these different things, all these different skills.
All the things that you've already been through, quite frankly. Everyone knows what authoritative versus,
Exactly. And so I thought it was going to be more of that. And I was really pleasantly surprised that it takes much more to be a good leader. And so I'm going to follow up on that one.
good. And a leader isn't just a leader on the job. A leader is a leader in the home. I mean, just to reinforce, a leader is a leader of yourself.
Yes.
A leader is a leader in your faith and in your community and in everything. So, yeah. Okay.
I think also when you talk about leadership and going through the course that you're going through, you're able to recognize a good leader from a bad leader.
Oh, yeah.
With the information, like, wow.
Yeah, there are a lot of people in positions of leadership who are not good leaders. Yeah. Yeah, it does become a little more apparent when you have the tools in your toolbox to go like, ooh. And unfortunately, from my experience, a lot of people got there in strange ways. In some cases, they were promoted because they had skills, but they didn't necessarily have leadership abilities. They weren't trained to be a leader. And then when they started not doing well in a leadership role, they were never held accountable for their lack of leadership abilities. Instead, they were just let go and, go ahead, just have at it. You're in that role. You do what you need to do. And the entire, unit, sometimes, hundreds, if not thousands of people are affected, suffer as a result. Turnover goes up and everything else. And then that person is promoted to an even higher level because they are.
Me.
Yeah. You what?
I feel like you're describing me.
Oh,
That's
wow.
exactly how it was.
Yeah.
I was promoted initially because I guess they saw something that was great, and let's put more shit in this. No leadership training ever, no supervisory training ever, no management training ever. Nothing even for the job.
Yeah.
So
and it's not your fault.
And I know I shared this with you all before, but I wish I would have taken this class, obviously, or something similar before, but I couldn't because all of a sudden I'm in this job and now I have to learn this job and I have to do it well and I'm expected to do well. And then once I got that job, then, let's put Marcia here and let's promote Marcia again and let's promote Marcia again and again and again. And that happened for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I never once took a leadership class, ever. And every time I wanted to, I couldn't because then the higher up I got, then personnel issues or things with employees got it. And I just never had the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I know for a fact that my employees and staff suffered hundreds.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I see some of them and I'm like, I feel terrible. I'm so glad you can do all those things, but I never had that chance. And I know I can't beat myself up over it. It was a
you can't go back.
I did the best I could, and I treated everyone as best I could, but I didn't have the tools to develop them because I wasn't even developed.
Right.
So,
Every organization I've worked at has done that same thing.
Yeah.
They
It's
promote
really
people
important.
because they're good at the job and
Right.
don't give them any
No.
real training about what it means to be a supervisor manager.
And then you end up,
They think a supervisor manager is somebody who assigns tasks and doles out discipline.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not what it should be.
And often they don't even dole out discipline because they don't know how to do it.
They're afraid.
They're afraid and they end up with employees that are, And so I end up teaching classes like dealing with bullies in the workplace, which I just did for the city on Tuesday, because so much bad behavior happens in the workplace as a result of poor leadership and people
And
in
it's really
position.
bad when the upper management are the bullies.
Well, and what
Well,
happens
because
is
they
they've
came
been
up the
promoted and
same
promoted
way.
and promoted,
Mhm.
and people do
Exactly.
people do what people see. Okay? And so what happens is they enlist their people and they start doing the same, they start treating their people the same way their boss treated them, and you suddenly have an organization that has a lot of dysfunction in it. And I see it.
You need somebody to come in and break the cycle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it normally has to go all the way to the top. You normally need to get rid of, if not the top, probably the second tier, leadership. So
That sink or swim mentality is very difficult.
yeah.
And it's not easy.
Unfortunately, when you get to that point, which a lot of organizations have, morale is bad, productivity is bad, absenteeism is bad. There's so many things that are happening in the organization that makes it unhealthy. So
You can affect that change without being at the top.
you
do it
can
from
affect
the
that
bottom.
change without being at the top. You definitely can.
It's difficult.
But if it's a culture
Mhm.
that promotes that kind of behavior that doesn't do anything about it, then you have to make changes at the top. And I know a certain organization now where that culture is there, and something has to change at the top.
The organization I was in Kentucky, I was able to affect change from the second one.
Yeah. Well, and that's great, and I've seen
Well, that
that
was mostly
happen.
because the guy at the top was pretty
That's what I'm going to say.
uninvolved.
So if the person at the top doesn't get in your way,
He's kissing the
then it's
babies.
okay. Because
I'm doing the work.
I
Yeah.
would say the city went through the reorg and it's actually made a huge difference.
Mm.
Last from when they got my father as city manager,
Mhm.
but not to brag, but you can see a totally different attitude because everyone's working together. Because they put different groups together
Mhm.
and they're working together, and that was a good change.
Mhm.
I was wondering if that was your dad.
so
And I'm blessed to work in the city manager's office, and when you talk about good leadership and the reason her dad and work around those guys and see them every day and see how they, you have different assistant city managers come up there in different areas, and they go up there and they get coached sometimes and get chewed out, and then they go back and do a better job. So, but it's good to have that environment. Like, it's a good environment here. It's a good environment there because you learn, you see, it's like hands on.
Mhm.
And see what leadership's all about.
And all the assistant city managers are hands-on.
Mhm.
They're always at your beck and call.
all right, the final law is the law of contribution. So you've done all this work on yourself, and that's great. The whole point is that it's not about you, it's about other people. So when you get to the point in your life when you think, gosh, everything's exactly where I want it to be, then it's really time to think about growing others to the point of legacy. So growing yourself enables you to grow others. There are 7 tips to cultivate an attitude of growing others. First, be grateful. Gratitude, we've talked a lot about that. So important. Put people first. But don't overdo it, okay? Don't put everybody first to your detriment. You have to also prioritize yourself. Don't let stuff own you. How many of you have clutter somewhere in your life? Clutter in your office, in your work, in your home. Clutter in your life is clutter in your heart. I mean that. Clear the clutter and it will open up the world to you. There's a reason for clutter. It's a psychological reason behind the clutter. Don't let stuff own you. But why do we have all this stuff? When I do international travel, one of the things that impresses me sometimes when I go to countries that maybe they don't have so much. An example is Fiji. Fiji, I connected with the people of Fiji probably more than anywhere in the world. And I've been to places where poverty is bad. I've been to places in the U.S. where poverty is bad. I've lived in poverty myself. Fiji was, to me, one of the most special people where I connected with people at such a spiritual level that I can't even explain it. And I came back and people were like, "Oh, aren't the people in Fiji? It's really poor there, isn't it?" I said, to me, it was one of the richest places in the world because so many people there didn't have running water or electricity, but they had joy beyond anything I've ever seen. They taught their children to have joy. They appreciated the outdoors. They appreciated everything they had, and it didn't feel like they didn't have anything. It really didn't. And I spent time in a village there and got to know one of the elders and his family, and was treated to a meal there where there's no furniture. We sat on the floor, and it felt like a feast. They caught the fish themselves, and it really was amazing. And there was no running water, and there was no electricity, and it was one of the most beautiful, rich experiences I've had in my entire life. The family valued each other as I walked around the village. People weren't focused on things at all. They were focused on each other and on nature and on. So don't let stuff own you. People are so in debt with stuff, and part of whether it's being in debt with stuff or having clutter, get rid of it. Stop having things own you. Don't let people own you is the next one. I mentioned purging people from your life that maybe don't belong there. That's a big part of that. Define success as sowing, not reaping. A lot of success comes in process, in the journey, not in the reward of picking those fruits, right? Just going out and looking at your garden, okay, smelling. Focus on self-development, not self-fulfillment. And then keep growing to keep giving. Don't stop growing. The minute you stop is the minute you start dying. You really have to.
Could you elaborate on number 6 a little more?
Focus on self-development, not self-fulfillment. A lot of people are working on just on the end journey. Like, okay, I want to own a business. Might be, I will be fulfilled if I have these things. Might be something, I will be fulfilled if I have the 9-bedroom and the 9-room house. Might be good. That's self-fulfillment. Self-development is, what am I doing to get there? I am learning about myself. I'm practicing discipline. I'm growing my faith. I am sharpening the brain. I'm building relationships. That's self-development versus self-fulfillment. And the end result might be that you get your 9-room house. But focus on the development portion. It's like, so often when I hear people say their goal is to lose weight, your goal is not to lose weight. Your goal is to get healthy. Your goal is to get fit. It's the destination. It's the getting there. It's the changing your habits. It's the, it's changing your mindset about what's important in your life. You are important. It's not about a number. A number's nice. It's an end result of a lot of hard work and discipline and changing of your lifestyle. But that changing of your lifestyle is what you have to continue, the discipline. Any thoughts on the laws? Yeah, I like them. So I mentioned this before. The soul would have no rainbow, had the eyes, no tears. I want you to think about, what can I do today to apply the laws to strategically position myself for success? Last part of your handout. Just think about even one of the laws. Just think about something we discussed. One thing you're going to do, an actionable item. One thing you're going to do. Tanya, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Barry, and we'll go this way.
Okay.
Mix
Mine
things
is
up.
very simple.
Okay.
I am going to implement Rule 5 in my life, and I'm going to clean up my Facebook.
Okay, good. I like it. All right, Barry.
Short and sweet.
Very good.
Well, I guess it might go under awareness, but I need to pay more attention to details. I have a tendency to rush through stuff and not going back there, looking at everything, make sure everything is right. So paying more attention to details.
Okay, good. Good. Sonia?
It was something Marsha said, that I'm doing a lot, but I can do more. And it ties into the law of expansion. Growth always increases my capacity. So do one thing a day towards my goal. So just be strategic and focus in on one thing a day towards my goal.
Great.
Curiosity. Just be asking more questions. Why?
Okay. Nice. Tracy?
Intentionality. I need to determine where I want to go.
Yeah, good.
Consistency.
Good.
I'll focus on my strengths.
That's
Guard against like negative self-talk or
All
anything.
right. Very good. Nice. So, where do you want to be, and do you know how to get there? And did any of the laws in particular resonate with you?
Consistency.
Okay.
The habit of routine.
Yeah, and you're already getting there with consistency, aren't you? You're seeing what discipline is doing for you, and it is when you discover what consistency does for you, it really feels
You can tell the
good.
excitement in what she
Yeah,
talks
I
about,
know.
too.
Yeah, there's an energy that you didn't have before. It's awesome to see.
Focus, too.
I know. Good. Anyone else have a law?
Rule 5.
Yeah, I love the rule of 5.
It's short and to the point,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like this little checklist.
Mm-hmm.
I can go, okay.
Good.
For me, it's awareness. You must know yourself to grow yourself. So I think the more I know about myself, the best I can do, I can grow.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2.
All right.
I like the law of mirror.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I like the law of modeling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a whole lot of new stuff under the sun, but just attached to the good things. Emulate the good things, the good people.
Rubber band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Keep stretching.
Keep stretching. Gotta keep
Put
stretching.
yourself out
You know, it applies to everything, really. The body, the mind.
Everything.
Keep stretching. Keep moving.
I like that one.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, I would pick 15. The law of contribution.
Oh, good. I like that. Yeah.
Because that really is what we should be doing. Is trying to grow others.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes. Martin Luther King Jr. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. I love that. So any thoughts about your mentoring? How are things going? All right. I see some body language from Barry. What's happening?
Mentor, mentee thing?
Yep. Mentor, mentee.
Well, me and Dave, we hit it off pretty good.
Okay.
We went to, I guess dinner, last Thursday. And it went well, and poor guy hurt his back there.
Aw.
My mentee, keep missing each other. Not sure what's going on with that. So, I don't know.
Okay, if it continues, let me know and I'll reassign. Try to reach back out to him. I know he's in transition right now. He's moving. It's a difficult time. I give him like 2 to 3 more weeks, but I want you to be more assertive in reaching out to him in different methods. Sometimes people don't respond well necessarily to an email or text, phone call. Revert to different methods of communication. But I know he's like physically moving on Friday, so I might give him till Monday or something and reach back out. Okay, and then if I need to change a pairing, I will.
My mentee dropped out of the class. I have tried to keep up with her, but she's just on a totally different path right now.
So you need a mentee?
Yeah.
And you have a mentor?
Yeah, David.
David's your mentor. Okay, so message me, and I'm trying to think of how I can manipulate things. So
Were you talking about Angie? Were you talking about Angie?
yeah.
Well, you said she's on a different path.
Well, I mean, she's not in the class anymore, so I don't really want you to feel any obligation to mention it.
She's just so totally involved with Vocal, with her animal rescue thing, and I understand that. And she's doing wonderful things, but if it's not directly related to that, she just doesn't have the time right now. And I'm not going to cast any stones. I'm just going to say that's.
Well, I still think it's really unfortunate because I really, really think that the bottom line is she felt like she didn't belong at the table, and she did belong at the table. And I
saw it from
I think she missed out on a huge opportunity, and I think that was her excuse. And
I can't fix it.
I know
can't change it, so
none of us can fix
don't
it.
know
None of us can change it. I feel bad because I've seen it in people before where they've given up on themselves, and I really thought I was going to be able to.
Well, I still kept reaching out through Facebook and messages.
I stay in touch with her, but it's just sad because I know she needs this, and it is what it is.
It is what it is, and
yeah.
you take a deep breath and you just move on.
But just get in touch with me. Both of you get in touch with me, and we will rework some things. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Oh, my mentor is wonderful.
Who's your mentor?
We've got Lori, and
she is great.
She's out of town next week, but we're going to have a conference call while my mother is at Temple Israel, whether she wants to be there or not.
She'll grow to love it. I promise.
Well, even if she doesn't.
Yeah, she'll go there
She's
anyway.
Going.
Good.
I sure was glad to be with my mentee again.
Good.
I thought I had ruined her after the first
No, I told you.
We got into a fight yesterday, though. Don't you gonna tell me?
No, you're not a mentor. I'm talking about.
Wait, you got into a fight.
Yeah, we got into a
Nuh-uh. I don't believe that.
People always want to argue with me.
I don't buy that for a minute. You know, the thing is, anytime you do go through something, please come to me and talk to me. I was grateful you came to me immediately. I reached out immediately. You know, I could tell that there was some, and I need to hear. You are 100% confidential except when it comes to me. Come to me. I will help you work through things. I knew it was going to be okay. But, you know, sometimes even the best leaders, suddenly there's a setback. Suddenly there's a struggle. And sometimes they get stuck, even though they're already like doing great things. They have a setback and they go back into this place that I had never seen that before. But you know, thankfully through mentoring and other coaching and other things, good things happen.
They're all a work in progress.
Who's your mentee?
Barbara.
Oh, she's really sick. Really, really, really sick. I just talked to her on the phone yesterday. So she's our eldest.
I know she fell.
She's when an older person falls. So she's not even that old. She's only in her 70s. Everything was fine until she had mold exposure. She was the healthiest person, and as soon as she had mold exposure, everything changed. She went from being this robust, bright lady, and all of a sudden she's frail. She's struggling.
I saw that at people at DVPR when we were at Northwood.
Well, so she's had health problem after health problem since the fall. Now she has to have knee replacement surgery, and she's terrified. And she's getting her affairs in order, and she doesn't. You know, she's so frail right now. She's really, really frail. And so, if each of you will just reach out to me individually, I will start reworking some things. But I can tell you right now, she's kind of out of pocket until if you call her, she'll answer. She's not really good about texting right now, but they have her on so many pain meds, and she's just really struggling. It's hard. So yeah,
I'll text you.
Okay, but you know, don't hesitate to reach out to them, to not give up on them. You know, but then do let me know, definitely by email as well, so I have record of it, and then I'll make some adjustments. Okay. So that being said, farewell to David, to Rochester, and to Raquel, who we never heard from. Hopefully everything's fine. So let's all say goodbye.
Goodbye.
We missed you.